Lee, haven't you washed it yet? Wanda buckled the handle of the bathroom door, and called out cautiously into the silent bathroom again. But there was still no response. Lee? I'm coming in. The water in the witch's clear eyes fluctuated, as if tears were emerging. Then he took a deep breath, as if he had made a big decision. He slammed the bathroom door open. Whoosh. Next second. A thick white mist hit the face, and the hot mist fell on the witch's face. It made her, who just came back from the cold wind, feel indescribably warm and comfortable. Lee, where have you been? Wanda wasn't in the mood to feel this. She came in to find the bathtub was empty. And there was no one in the transparent bathroom. Her heart suddenly fell to the bottom. How can there be no one? However, at this moment, a wet figure behind him suddenly hugged him up from behind and held him in his arms. Witch, how did you come in? Plum. Wanda felt the scorching heat coming up, and turned her head to look eagerly. Just in time to meet Li Zi's fiery gaze, he swallowed his Adam's apple, his voice a little hoarse. If you tell me that you are hungry, it would be impolite to rush in. Who? Hungry? Don't talk nonsense. Seeing the real man, Wanda couldn't help stretching out her hand and pinching it. It's real, the living Li Zi. He doesn't seem to be out. The heart was finally relieved. But when she thought that she had actually forced her way into the bathroom, her cheeks flushed immediately, and the national bandits also instantly turned pink. Real? Then who just opened the door and walked in? Li Zi sniffed the faint fragrance of the woman's neck, and his gaze became even hotter. There is a strong impulse in the lower body, because now the witch in the bathroom is so tempting. Surrounded by white mist. That beautiful cheek that can be sweet and sweet, shyly flushed and pink, charming and provocative. A pair of wet eyes, watery, seems to have cried just now, looks sparkling, like a lake of clean water. Delicate and charming. The corners of her eyes were still red, and at the moment she might be nervous, the corners of her charming lips were trembling. Wanda probably can't imagine how many people can be driven crazy by this appearance. Lee, can you let me go out first? Wanda noticed the light in the man's eyes, which gradually became dangerous. Immediately realized that something was wrong. The strange atmosphere is here again. No, you have come in. Are you sure you don't want to write with me? Li Zi hugged her even tighter as she spoke. The water that was not wiped off the body was all stained on the witch's clothes. Because Wanda took off her windbreaker when she came back earlier, the clothes on her body are very thin now. Gets wet easily. The curves of the figure are perfectly displayed. No, let me go first. The witch panicked, and she noticed that the man was very clean. Even touching the abdominal muscles is zero-distance contact. Clear muscle texture. She really wanted to break free and run out, but women's strength is naturally relatively weak. Plus, for some reason, her body felt a little hot and weak, and she pushed the man hard, but she seemed to be acting like a baby. Weak. But did you forget that you never rewarded me? Li Zi's voice became even hoarse, and he felt a little hot in his heart. You really overestimated your strength. After returning home, he wanted to go directly to the living room and wait. As a result, the witch also came back at this time, thinking about teasing the cute witch, but now I seem to be. There is another word called, fried, is becoming more and more intense. It fits his current situation very well. Don't be like this, we agreed before. Wanda cried, and the strong hormones in front of her also made her a little upset. The speaking voice trembled uncontrollably. Then don't move around. Li Zi's body stiffened, and if he moved again, something would happen. He took a deep breath and said slowly, Witch, remember what I said before, there are many places that can be used. What's the meaning? Wanda was stunned when she heard this, without turning her head. Just when the little witch was stunned, Li Zi's big hand reached out and touched the corner of her lips. Next second. Woo woo woo. Wanda understands. For a long time, the bathroom door is open. Cough cough cough. Wanda walked out with her ruddy lips covered, the corners of her clear eyes glistened with crystal clear tears, her pink and rosy face was charming and seductive. The first time she came out, she grabbed a bottle of mouthwash and took a big gulp. Run to the kitchen and start rinsing. At the moment, her mind was full of memories of what happened in the bathroom just now. What a shame. The witch touched the red corner of her mouth, wishing she could jump off a building. Thinking about it, she took another big sip of water, her cheeks were bulging. Spit out forcefully. How can such a thing be done? Wanda washed her face with cold water, the clear water droplets stuck to her flushed face, she looked charming and affectionate. Witch, where are you? In the living room, Li Zi had already taken a shower and changed into a black nightgown. After a glance, he didn't see the witch, so he sat on the sofa and smiled helplessly. I can't hide here. Who said I hid? It was too disgusting just now, I went to wash my mouth. Wanda is very angry. After leaving a word, he turned and went to take a shower. Boom. The bathroom door was slammed shut, and the house trembled a little. It seems really angry. Li Zi looked at the threshold with a little shapeshifting. Did you see the witch using the scarlet calendar just now? It seems that I have to find a way to comfort him. While pondering, he turned on the TV to watch the playback of the reality show. This program used to invite Chaoing to go abroad. However, after 5 years of extinction, plus 2 battles with Thanos, now the entire Avengers are falling apart, and Chaoing has never been invited to leave the country. Except for the candidate for the new Captain America who has become popular recently. It's like a talent show. From a group of American soldiers, select a new Captain America who will serve as justice. In fact, these soldiers have participated in modern warfare for nearly 10 years. Click. After a while, the bathroom door opened. Wanda bathed in white mist, changed into crimson pajamas, looked at the man lying on the sofa watching TV, and couldn't help but feel angry. Sudden. She belatedly recalled that she seemed to have forgotten one thing. Shadow. The witch reacted and suspected that Li Zi was a black shadow. Although it is now confirmed that Li Zi is in the bathroom, and he also said. The witch couldn't help sticking out her tender tongue, and licked the red corners of her mouth. Bah. What am I thinking? She shook her head vigorously, trying not to think about those dirty things, and her thoughts returned to the matter of Sombra. Witch, what are you doing standing at the bathroom door? Li Zi felt a fiery gaze staring at him, turned his head to look at Wanda. The corner of his mouth raised slightly. Are you reminiscing? Go to hell, who will recall that kind of thing? Wanda rolled her eyes angrily when she heard the words of this prodigal son. That kind of taste ghost would want to taste it a second time. No, his can't be tasted by anyone else. No, what are you thinking? It's over. The witch sat down on the soft sofa in distress and shook her head, really wanting to shake all the yellow waste out of her mind. What happened again? Seeing the witch's cute behavior, Li Zi hugged her involuntarily, buried her head on her shoulder, and smelled the seductive fragrance. It's all your fault. I'm completely unclean, dirty. Wanda frowned and turned her head away not to look at him. It's all my fault. Li Zi nodded vigorously, and he admitted that he was a little bit hard. I bought some snacks before. How about we watch a movie together? Wanda looked unwilling to talk to him, and still didn't look at him. Li Zi felt a little helpless, but he made mistakes and wronged others, so he couldn't ignore them. For him, women are not tools. They are equal to each other. If it is only used as a tool to vent, what kind of girlfriend in marriage are you looking for? It is better to spend money to find someone on the street. Thinking, he touched the witch's head. Get up and go to the kitchen. It really seems. Wait for the men to turn their backs to themselves. Wanda hurriedly turned her head to look over, her expression suddenly complicated. I don't know if it's an illusion. When she saw Li Zi wearing a black nightgown, she completely saw his back and He Ying's back together in her mind. They were exactly the same. Replacement is fake. You're not angry anymore. After a while, Li Zi walked out of the kitchen with a lot of snacks in his arms, and saw the witch's clear eyes staring at her. Wanda looked away feigning displeasure, but her eyes were full of complicated and doubtful emotions. She wasn't sure if Li Zi was Sombra or not. After all, I have no evidence, and when I entered Li Zi's spiritual world, I didn't see any memory of learning magic. If that memory is false, what is the purpose of Li Zi approaching him? It is because you really care about yourself that you hide it. Or is there another secret? Thinking of this, Wanda felt tight in her chest and felt very uncomfortable. She worried that she would face a very bad result then. Girl, should she question her face to face, or choose to pretend that nothing happened and let everything get back on track? After all, if it is questioned, it is not true. It will definitely break Li Zi's heart. If you ask, it's true. Wanda didn't dare to think about it. Witch, what movie do you want to see? Li Zi stretched out his hand and shook it in front of the dazed woman, and felt her fluctuating emotions at the same time. Tonight's witch seems a little strange. When did it start? It seemed that it started when she broke into the bathroom. At that time, the witch seemed very flustered and nervous, even afraid of being wronged. As if being deceived, she must have discovered something. A thought came to Li Zi's mind, that if they really found out, the witch should have exposed it long ago. Soon the idea was dismissed again. I want to watch Titan Nick, I only saw half of it last time. Wanda next to him took the initiative to lean over. Forget it. Don't think about it. If Li Zi is Sombra, he really has evil intentions. With Sombra's strength, he had already been eaten to the bone. She temporarily put aside the distracting thoughts in her mind, smelling the familiar hormones, her face revealed tiredness. This time I will watch with you seriously. Li Zi also temporarily put that matter aside. he has no malice towards Wanda, and he cares about witches very much in his heart. Totally different from Agatha. When the actual time comes, I will tell him personally. HMPH, but I don't want to look at the head again. Who told you to look at my feet last time? Wanda thought of the shameful experience in the German hotel, grabbed the remote control, and moved the progress bar to the middle part. Yeah, then I'll enjoy my feet while watching a movie. Lee Z smiled slightly, and his eyes couldn't help falling on those crystal clear little feet, which looked so pink and smooth after bathing. Unscrupulous eyes. Let Wanda shrink her toes shyly, pull a blanket on the sofa, and cover her body. Then the movie was switched back to the beginning title. Don't show it, just watch the movie with me. Good. Lee Z hugged the witch sideways, lay on the soft sofa, and dimmed the light with the remote control. The two hugged each other, feeling each other's breath. The TV is playing Titanic, a film and television work that makes people yearn for love. But often a good movie needs to be remembered. Then it will be like life. The ending will never be perfect, because regret is always fresh in people's memory. Just like the ending of the two people on the Titanic. It made the witch in her arms cry and her nose twitched. Finally fell asleep. Next morning. Sunlight poured into the room through the window. As usual, Lee Z got up early. After washing up, he saw that the time was still early, and the witch was still curled up in the bed, sleeping. Her young face showed no sign of waking up. He put on his coat and went for a run. Came back from the shower just in time for the news. According to the consultations of the government departments, the people of America will see the candidate of Captain America this week. Many people said that he will become an excellent super. Even after several months of recovery, people still can't accept their living conditions, and the happiness index is plummeting. The main reason is that people come back, so many people have to make new choices again. Definitely the greatest happiness now is that Chaoing let us come back from the flickering, Resby. According to the statistics of the United States, the crime rate is skyrocketing, because the bastards are back, and some people claim that many people have superpowers. Lee Hao spawned more super criminals. I can't imagine that if this is true, human genes are evolving rapidly? Lee Z leaned on the sofa board. The TV, as always, played boring news. The main reason is that most of the news does not have any effect on him. For him, only by knowing about big events can he have some effect on himself. Make breakfast first, the witch should wake up soon. Lee Z stretched, got up and was about to turn off the TV. However, at this moment, the voice from the TV interrupted him. An urgent message will be broadcast next. Hear this. Lee Z sat back. Then the news screen switched, and a white-haired man appeared in the camera, and he looked very mean. Lee Z recognized it immediately. The man is the boss of the Daily Bugle, Jameson. See this. As if he realized something, he couldn't help holding his breath. In the screen, Jameson said emotionally, "Everyone, there is an important news to be broadcast next, and the Spider-Man is Peter Parker. He killed Mysterio, the excellent superhero, and he should be remembered by the world, not a scumbag in diapers, a high school student Peter Parker." There are also various fragments interspersed in the screen, and the beginning is the self-report of the mysterious guest. The next paragraph is little Spider-Man Peter, who shot and killed the mystery guest directly. Sure enough, the three worms in one frame are coming. Lee Z was mentally prepared long ago, without any accidents. On the contrary, I look forward to the scene where the three insects are in the same frame. After all, the plot of the original book is so stupid. Marvel made a lot of money by relying on the three bugs in the same frame, and directly won the highest box office ring of the year. But just as he was leaning back on the couch, reading on, the fragments in the screen almost didn't make him go berserk. I saw that Jameson criticized angrily, and Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. She was an accomplice to Spider-Man Peter Parker, and together they conspired to kill this great hero. According to the whistleblower, the death of Mysterio is inseparably related to Scarlet Witch, and she did appear near the River Thames in London that day. On the large screen TV, Jameson of the Daily Bugle had a serious expression, talking endlessly. Quentin Baker. I really didn't expect that after you died, you could still do this. On the sofa, Lee Z's face was gloomy, the reason why he ignored the mysterious guest earlier. It was because this guy was originally an ordinary person, and there was no threat at all. But I didn't expect that in the original book, the mystery guest only competed to be the backup to Little Spider-Man, and Scarlet Witch was also involved. He wanted to make the world misunderstand Little Spider-Man and Scarlet Witch by creating momentum, and through their popularity, let the name of the mysterious guest go down in history. In fact, the mystery guest got his wish, in this era where it is easy to trust others. The release of this kind of news will undoubtedly cause an uproar. No one cares about the truth, everyone just comes to join in the fun, and when the heat is over, they will disperse. There are too many things worth paying attention to in a year. At most, stay and pay attention for a while. Trouble. Li Zi was distressed and worried. What he was worried about was that the witch would be sad. The previous Sokovia Agreement incident alone could make the witch fall into depression. Her heart is fragile due to the cruel environment in which she grew up. Not to mention, such a big thing now. At that time, it will definitely attract the attention of the whole world, and the unabashed netizens will probably stand on the moral high ground and condemn witches. Moreover, it is still the case that the witch has a conviction. How to hide the witch? Li Zi thought about it, looked at the TV for the last time, and quickly picked up the remote control. Getting ready to switch. Don't close it, I've seen it all. From the direction of the bedroom behind him, came the witch's cold and magnetic voice. Witch. Why did you wake up so early today? Li Zi's hand holding the remote was stiff, but he wanted to press it. But a scarlet light wrapped around his hand, and he couldn't move at all. He could only let the sarcasm of Jameson from the Daily Bugle come out on the TV. Wanda was wearing a thin pajamas, leaning against the threshold, looking at the TV screen with those clear and lively eyes. Witch, don't pay attention to what they say. Li Zi could feel the witch's emotions and was a little unstable. It must have been stung by Jameson's words. Thinking of this, he walked over and comforted him distress-edly. Facts are the most important, false will never become true, and Mysterio will never become Chawang. Li, I'm fine, these contents are nothing, I'm used to it. Wanda looked away and didn't look at the TV again. Although she said so on her lips, her sparkling water and slightly red eyes revealed her inner emotions. Witch, you really don't have to worry about it. Li Zi looked at the lovely and pitiful witch, couldn't help but put his arms around her, and kissed her fair forehead lightly as comfort. Li, I don't care about other people, I only care about you. It's just that I remembered some bad things in the past. Wanda took a deep breath, and said slowly with a tired face, you make breakfast first, I'm going to wash up. Well, let's go. Li Zi nodded, he knew he couldn't comfort Wanda for a while. After all, things have already happened, and it is a fact that cannot be changed. Can only comfort slowly. Try to distract the witch's attention on other things. Since there are not many ingredients at home, Li Zi simply made a few common Chinese breakfast dishes. In order to appease the witch's emotions after the emergency news broadcast by the Bugle Daily, he specially made all the witch's favorite food. Osmanthus cake, preserved egg and lean meat porridge, red bean paste buns. Li, you are so kind. In front of the dining table, Wanda sat on a chair, looking at the table full of her favorite food, with a smile on her pretty face. Eat more and throw away bad emotions. Li Zi touched the witch's little head, picked up a piece of sweet-scented osmanthus cake and handed it to her mouth. Wanda took a big bite of the sweet-scented osmanthus cake, habitually stuck out her pink tongue, and licked the crumbs at the corner of her mouth. Ahem. It was a simple action that made Li Zi cough uncontrollably. Witch, do you really not know what is attractive about you? Obviously Wanda really doesn't know, she is now immersed in the temptation of delicious food, temporarily forgetting the previous things. After eating the remaining half of the sweet-scented osmanthus cake in the man's hand, she wondered, aren't you going to eat? You eat first. Li Zi swallowed, the scene just now reminded him of the ecstasy experience last night. There is one thing to say, Nan's tongue really makes people want to die. Li, your cooking skills are obviously much better than mine, so what you said before was all to make me happy. After Wanda ate the sweet-scented osmanthus cake, she also tried the bean paste bun. I found that it was several times more delicious than what I had eaten outside before, even if it was a star hotel in Germany before, it couldn't compare. It feels completely out of class. That was the first time you made it, and it must be delicious in the future. Also, maybe you're poisoning me too. Li Zi saw that the witch was eating so happily, and the corners of Li Zi's mouth curled up unconsciously. Being praised by someone you like is a wonderful thing. Really, eating the food made by Li has an indescribable feeling. Just like. Wanda's cheeks were bulging, and her speech was a little blurry. She frowned, thought carefully and continued, Li, you always make people feel sweet when you cook early. Well, eat more. Witch, that's because you filter me. Li Zi's heart is very warm, and the innocent witch probably doesn't know it. If you inadvertently, you can melt the glacier. Correct. The rosy-lipped witch who was eating on the opposite side suddenly raised her head and took a sip of milk. After swallowing the full mouthful of food forcefully, those crystal-clear eyes like jewels looked at Li Zi. Huh. What's the matter? Li Zi was eating red bean paste buns, and was slightly taken aback when he met the woman's gaze. When you were in Germany before, you seemed to say that you could make German-style sausages. If you don't have dinner, you can make grilled sausages. I want to eat them. Wanda licked the osmanthus cake crumbs on her lips, and said her purpose. Cough cough cough. Hear this. Li Zi gasped and coughed from the bean paste. Eat slowly, I'm already full and I won't compete with you. Seeing that he was blushing from choking, Wanda hurried forward and patted the man on the back. I'm fine. Li Zi took a sip of milk and sat up slowly. Actually, I don't know how to make sausage. How can I cook sausages? I blurted out my words at the beginning. And the word that came to his mind at that moment was not German sausage. Although that thing is similar to grilled sausage, it can also bring physical and spiritual happiness to witches, and there is not much difference in essence. But one is to the stomach, one. I haven't tried it yet, I don't know if it can reach the stomach in one step. So you were lying to me? Wanda gave him a supercilious look, lying to herself for a long time, then you still said to invite me to eat sausage. Across the table. Seeing the witch's expression, Li Zi couldn't help swallowing his Adam's apple. The main reason is that the witch washed her hair by the way, and now her hair is not completely dry, and her face is slightly flushed. When I roll my eyes at him, it's kind of like yesterday in the bathroom. Thinking about it, Li Zi couldn't help saying, Witch, you have actually eaten. What? When Wanda heard this, her head fell into a brief downtime, and then racked her brains to think for a long time, but she didn't think of anything she had eaten. She looked confused, and looked at Li Zi with clear eyes. Could it be that you secretly made it for me when I was sleepwalking? Cough cough cough. Li Zi coughed again, met the witch's pure gaze and question, always felt that he was cheating the little girl. Can something like this be done secretly? It seems that he can do it, but Li Zi is a gentleman, not a beast, so he can't do that kind of thing. And the witch in the dream didn't respond. It's boring. Li, tell me, when did you eat it? Wanda frowned, her pretty face full of distress. I really don't remember when I ate it. Last night. Li Zi spit out 2 words, immediately got up decisively and began to pack the dishes, and walked towards the kitchen. Quickly fled the crime scene, leaving behind a dazed Wanda. Moment. The witch's angry shout came from the dining room. Ah. Li Zi. In the kitchen, Li Zi poked his head out to see the dining table, and beckoned to the blushing witch. I'm here. I'm going to kill you. Wanda blushed, embarrassed and eager to open her mouth. He bit the man to death with a pair of small canine teeth. It turns out that there was a premeditated plan. Damn, this guy has been thinking about this kind of thing for a long time. Vomit. Dirty. Damn Li Zi. Wanda shook her head vigorously, trying not to think about it, but the sense of reality in the picture still lingered. Hateful. She touched and rubbed the red corners of her mouth, her cheeks were so red that they were about to bleed. Li Zi came out after washing the dishes, and saw her witch was still sitting on the chair, touching the corner of her reddish mouth. Her eyes were red and watery, and her expression was shy, but she looked even more charming and attractive. It makes people feel soft. Li Zi walked over and hugged the witch from behind, stroking the corner of her mouth. Witch, don't be angry. Okay, I used to pay attention to propriety, and I would never use such force. Don't touch me, if you can. Wanda slapped his hand off, and said resentfully, but why is it linked to food? I won't be able to eat that thing in the future. Who said I saw you yesterday? The food was very good. As soon as Li Zi said with a smile, his expression froze. The witch's milky white and delicate hands had already grabbed the flesh around his waist and twisted it fiercely. She stared at her beautiful eyes and said viciously, You are talking nonsense, I will ignore you for a day. Why? In fact, the magnetic sound is somewhat vague and soft, which makes people very excited. Aha. Li Zi recited Buddhist scriptures silently in his heart, not to be beasts in the morning, and to talk about it in the evening. So in order to divert his attention, he looked at the few tableware left on the table, which belonged to the witch herself. He hurriedly said, Witch, your bottle of milk is still there. Do you want a drink? No, I put it away. Wanda's eyes fell on the bottle of milk, her face became even more flushed, and her earlobes became pink and rosy. She gritted her teeth and pinched the man's waist, and said angrily, Li Zi, you have misled me, I will never drink milk again. Ah? Li Zi was so dazed that he didn't do anything. When he saw the bottle of milk, he suddenly realized, a smirk formed on the corner of his mouth and said, Witch, I didn't say anything this time, it's just your own imagination. Nonsense. Nonsense, I didn't want to be wrong, I was led to be wrong by you. Wanda faltered with a red face, and managed to form a sentence for a long time. Woo woo woo. She doesn't seem to be clean. Don't blame me, it's a little witch's own dirty mind. Li Zi reached out and lifted the woman's chin. Looking at the woman's watery red lips, she felt a little dry. Obviously it's you. Woo woo woo. Wanda wanted to say something else. Next second, the man in front of him suddenly drew closer, and a big handsome face approached. Soft lips meet. The witch's eyes were slightly dazed, and she lost her resistance after a while. His body was limp, as if he had fallen into a warm world in an instant. For a long time, the two were separated. Still angry, Li Zi pinched the tender face of the woman in his arms, and said softly, "I forgive you." Wanda gasped heavily. Her flushed face hadn't faded since she had breakfast, and now her heart was beating even more. "Witch, you have to practice hard, or you will be suffocated every time." Feeling the panting woman in her arms, Li Zi couldn't help but said, "Who told you it takes so long every time? I'm almost suffocating." Wanda gave him a blank look. Those who don't know think he is a vixen, kissing for so long every time, no one can stand it anyway. "Is this unbearable?" Li Zi bowed his head next to her ear, and said in a deep voice, "In the future, doing that kind of thing will only last longer than it does now." After Wanda heard it, she immediately thought of it. "Oh." Then he pushed the man on his body away. "Dirty. I'm only nasty to you." The smile on Li Zi's face never stopped. His witch is so cute that people can't help being teased. Boom. At this time, there was a knock on the door, and two figures appeared outside from the crack of the door, one thin and the other strong. It should be James Wu and Monica. Li Zi glanced at the crack of the door, reluctant to let go of the witch, and went to open the door. Click. As expected, there were two agents from Tianjin Bureau outside the door. They had dark circles under their eyes. Obviously, even if they were in a coma last night, they did not escape the fate of working overtime when they woke up. "Good morning, Li." Another sunny day. James Wu still had a mean smile on his face. Even the dark circles on his face couldn't cover up his overflowing smile. "What's up?" Li Zi was indifferent to him and asked indifferently. "The thing is like this. After we woke up yesterday, you had already left, so I want to file a case with you today. After all, you can be regarded as one of the dangerous people who have learned magic." Monica handed out a file, and said slowly with a document, "There's something else going on, isn't there?" Li Zi took the things and glanced at the hands of the two who kept rubbing together. "That's right, you and Wanda are a match made in heaven, and it's obvious that we have other things to do." Hearing this, James Wu hurriedly said, "We want to find Wanda. The police were on the west side of the town this morning and saw that many buildings were destroyed. After the Tianjin Bureau was determined, it was discovered that there were a large number of remnants of magical energy, many of which came from Wanda." Li Zi on the opposite side suddenly looked a little gloomy, and said in a deep voice, "So, you now suspect that Wanda broke the law?" "Sorry, not us. We're just following instructions from our superiors that Wanda was accused of vandalism and she was seen out west last night." Seeing Li Zi's face, James Wu became more and more gloomy. He hurriedly explained, "Actually, it's mainly because of the news from the Bugle Daily, and people in the town are panicking. But don't worry, most people in the Heavenly Sword Bureau believe that Wanda is innocent." Is talking. Wanda appeared behind Li Zi at some point. Her expression was somewhat unpredictable. She asked in a weak tone, "Do people in the town hate me? Do people in town hate me?" Wanda hid behind Li Zi, with only one head sticking out, her tone carefully revealing worry and fear. "Don't think about it, witch. The people in this town are very friendly, they would never do that." Hearing this, Li Zi hugged the woman distress-edly. When he lowered his head, he met those clear and lively eyes, but slightly dark eyes. He knew that the witch was very concerned about the opinions of strangers, and he could feel the woman in his arms, and his emotions at the moment were like a frightened deer. Panic. "I'm sorry, Wanda, we're just doing a routine investigation and there's no malice. You can simply explain what happened last night." James Wu didn't want to come to investigate, but there is a Sokovia agreement. Any registered chawing that violates the law must go through the procedure. In fact, James Wu knew from the bottom of his heart that the video of the Bugle Daily broke the news, and the truth of the facts is definitely not as in the video of the secret guest. "And I heard from the top of the Heavenly Sword Bureau that the mysterious guest is a scam." However, the superiors currently have no intention of standing up and clarifying. This matter is mainly the fault of S.H.I.E.L.D. It needs Director Nick Fury to stand up and agree to clarify this matter. But he seems to be missing now, and the whole world can't see this guy. I heard that this guy stopped being on Earth last year. As a result, the incident was fermented on the internet and turned into a mess. To this, Wanda just nodded indifferently. "I briefly talked about what happened last night, including Kamar Taj's people, the Shadow, and the Apostle Carrot who was trying to escape." James Wu and Monica asked several questions in turn. After finishing the record, he turned and left without staying too long. "Witch, you don't need to care about these things. Anyway, What other people say won't affect our lives. Watching the two into the elevator, Li Zi hugged the witch and went back to the house, feeling her depressed mood, and comforted her in a low voice. Li, I'm not thinking wildly, I'm just a little sad. People always like to look at the appearance, and never care about the inside. This was the case with the Sokovia Agreement before, and it is still the case now. Wanda frowned, recalling some bad things in her mind. She rubbed her slightly red eyes, and said in a hoarse voice, I'm a little sleepy, I want to go back to sleep. Li Zi touched her head and realized that he couldn't help the witch now. At the same time, for the first time, I agreed with Captain America Rogers, the concept in Captain America. People are expecting Chawing to save more people. I don't want a few people to be hurt. But the world is such that you can't have both, not to mention that many people don't even have a choice. But this time is even more ridiculous. People are willing to believe in a new superhero, and they are unwilling to believe in their good neighbor Spider-Man who has protected them for many years and Scarlet Witch who paid for it in the war. If Wanda hadn't agreed to participate in the mysterious disappearance case yesterday, and hadn't found out the Apostle Carrot, more people might have disappeared and died. Hey, people's hearts are unpredictable, and seawater is unpredictable. Li Zi sighed helplessly and shook his head, looking at the door of the room with half-closed eyes. After thinking about it and walking in, the witch's eyes were confinement on the bed and her breathing was steady. She had already fallen asleep, and her white hands were exposed outside the quilt. The cold autumn wind blows on the woman's hands through the gap of the window, making her tremble slightly in her sleep. Lu Mei frowned slightly. Go to sleep first. Li Zi put her cold hand under the quilt, lowered her head and tapped it on her forehead. Then he tightened the windows and curtains, turned around and closed the door, and entered the study next door. The whole house fell into silence again. The study room had not been entered for many days, and the room looked particularly cold, with a thin layer of dust on the table. The first time Li Zi came in, he locked the doors and windows and drew the curtains. Because he planned to take advantage of the witch's sleeping time to think carefully about how to solve the current situation. Let me think. With a wave of his hand, an ocean of stars enveloped his head in an instant, dotted with twinkling stars. Everywhere exudes boundless energy. What new thing should we create? Li Zi thought about it. Things are a bit troublesome at the moment, whether it's Wanda's temper or little Spider-Man Peter's temper next. They will most likely go to Doctor Strange and use the magic hidden deep in Kamar Taj to make the world forget about it. At that time, I don't know what troubles will be caused. Everything is starting to feel a bit uncertain. And Li Zi has not revealed his own strength now. In terms of combat performance, he should not be too high, otherwise he will definitely be suspected. As for Sombra's identity, may have been suspected by Wanda by now. I need a helper, the shadow cannot always appear at the same time as me. The best way is the only way. It is to implement the idea that has inadvertently flashed in my mind before, to build a Black Shadow organization, and let the representatives in it do things for themselves. Standing behind the scenes and watching the overall situation is the most appropriate solution. But the question is, who will do things for themselves? Li Zi couldn't help being silent, and for a moment his eyes lit up. Why must it be a human? Robots are also a good choice, and they won't disobey my orders. A powerful super-intelligent robot can use weapons as well as serve as a military force on the field. For example, Vision. Hayward, director of Tianjin, called it the most powerful intellectual weapon in human history, because he is so intelligent that he is almost indistinguishable from humans. The most important is, Li Zi's current creative magic attainments are capable of creating such intellectual weapons. As for the creatures, there is no way to do it yet. That's something only gods can do. Even someone as strong as Odin can't violate the power of rules of the universe. Come and pick one. Li Zi didn't waste any more time, recalling the concept of super-intelligent robots in his previous life memories. After a while, two excellent candidates came to mind. Why only two? Because there is not enough time. Wanda next door may wake up at any time, and two are enough at this stage. Call, next second. Whoosh! The vast stars above his head, as his thoughts surged, the stars dotted all over the sky reflected a more dazzling light. A powerful energy is intertwining and invisible. Forge a big net. A ball of light gradually gathers on it, absorbing various substances and elements on the planet, and constantly enriching the objects in the ball of light. Time passed quickly. A few hours later, near noon. The two light spheres in the vast stars fell one after another, circled around the top of the head, and landed firmly in Li Zi's hands. It's done. He looked at the ball of light in his palm and took a long breath. Building two kinds of objects at the same time was not an easy task. Spread your palms, and the words Terminator T-1000 appear on two balls of light. Yurha 2B, Then two balls of light rushed out one after another, and two figures appeared in front of him. One is a robot with a liquefied body. The moment he appeared, his mechanical eyes scanned Li Zi's whole body, according to his owner's appearance. Soon it turned into the appearance of an oriental yellow-skinned man. He is one of the most famous villain robots in the Terminator series, T-1000. It has a liquid mechanical body, extremely strong self-repair ability, and super high and complex transformation ability. Hands and other parts of the body can be transformed into weapons for combat. It even imitates the appearance and voice of other people. And in another ball of light, a white-haired figure walked out bathed in white light. She has short white hair, blue-gray eyes, a black eye mask, a black gothic dress, and black knee-high heels. While full of mystery, it also reveals a sense of vigor, which makes people feel full of heroism. Her concept comes from Nier Automata, Jurha 2B. Terminator T-1000 will serve you from now on. Jurha 2B will serve you in the future. The two robots started to bow at the same time, and the voice was no different from that of a human being, full of awe and respect. It seems to work well. Li Zi ignored them, but went around and found that there were no flaws. Anything he creates will be much better than the original, even these two robots. So in the creation process, he added a lot of ideas, which may sometimes lead to unstable situations. But for now it doesn't appear to be. Boom. Just then. There was a knock on the door, accompanied by the witch's magnetic cry when she just woke up. Li, are you in the study? Can I go in? Who? 2B's eyes suddenly sharpened when he heard the movement, and the mechanical sword suspended behind his back flew into his hand. In her program, the first order is to protect Li Zi. Don't, it's our own people outside. Li Zi hurriedly stopped, and waved to a few Shadow Corps. You two go with them first, and I will transmit the mission data to you later. Yes. 2B was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at the door and put away the long sword. Submerged into the darkness with the people of the Shadow Corps. Click. As soon as the few people left, the door of the study room was opened on the back foot. Plum. Wanda walked in and saw the man sitting on a chair, playing games with headphones on. She was inexplicably relieved. So you are here. Li Zi seemed to have just heard the sound and took off the earphones. Seeing the witch behind him, he said softly, Wake up, are you hungry? Hungry, it's already noon. Wanda glanced at the time in the lower right corner of the computer, and was a little surprised. I actually slept for so long. I saw that you slept too comfortably, so I didn't call you. Li Zi couldn't help pinching her tender face, and said in a distressed tone, The recent incidents have made you so tired. Originally, he had just come out of grief when he met Agatha. Now it is being questioned and slandered by the outside world. In just a few months, too many things happened to the fragile witch. Li Zi was really worried, and the witch couldn't bear it. No, I will never feel tired with you by my side. Wanda could see the worry in the man's eyes, and pinched his face in response. However, compared to his white and tender face, the man's skin is obviously rougher, but the hand feel is not bad, and it is easy to touch. She touched the man's face and said softly, I'll cook the lunch, cook braised pork for you, okay? She wanted to find something to do and stop thinking about it. Good. Li Zi nodded, thinking of the braised pork made by the witch before. He still remembers it fresh. The taste is really memorable, no less than China's top chef. Witches are really capable in this respect, not weaker than their own magic at all. Legal ability. Sure enough, the witch's cooking skills did not disappoint. It didn't take long for the scent wafting from the kitchen to permeate the entire living room and dining room. People can't help but whet their appetite after smelling it. After a while, 3 dishes and 1 soup were placed on the table. Eat it quickly. Wanda took a piece of meat with perfect color and put it to the mouth of the man opposite, eyes full of anticipation. Li Zi ate it in 1 bite, and his eyes lit up. It seems that your cooking skills have improved again. Are you secretly cooking behind my back? Where is it? It's obviously the same as before. Wanda used the same pair of good chopsticks, picked a piece into her mouth without dislike, and the taste was clearly the same as before. This man is making himself happy again. Although I knew it was coaxing, my mood improved a lot. Obviously there is, even if Tang Seng comes, he can't help but take a bite. Li Zi made serious comments with a look of recollection. Then eat quickly, or you will be spoiled. Wanda listened with a sweet smile on her lips. The meal was a delight. The topics of the two have never stopped. They are all about life issues, and there are also interesting things they saw on the internet. Even the seemingly cumbersome things did not affect their mood. Until the end of lunch. Wanda's words made the atmosphere much cooler. Li, I want to go to the Chinese restaurant in the food street for dinner. But. Li Zi hesitation, he naturally knows what the witch thinks. She wants to try to face it, or to see what kind of attitude the people in the town have towards her. Saying this sentence also represented her great determination. Lee, we haven't been there for a long time. We used to go once a day, so let's go once tonight. Wanda was afraid that he would disagree, so her voice softened immediately. Okay, let's go together tonight. Lee Z finally gave in when she heard the witch's coquetry. Besides, she can't stay in the room forever. One day I will go out, everything is a matter of time. The next afternoon. The two of them stayed on the soft sofa without going anywhere. Lee Z surfed the internet and checked ins on the laptop, and Wang Zhang lay in his arms reading the Book of the Dark God. Although Mystery's slander caused a lot of people on the internet to attack and insult Scarlet Witch. But it didn't affect the witch's mentality of learning. She held the Book of Darkness all afternoon, sometimes frowning, sometimes slightly widening her eyes, full of disbelief. It seems to have realized the way. Lee Z often looks at the witch's cute expression silently, and often can't help but want to pinch her little face to enjoy herself. No matter where the witch is, it is hard to put it down. However, he spent the whole afternoon surfing the internet, and also saw the reports of the major news agencies on the incidents of Little Spider-Man and Scarlet Witch. Some people even picked up the black history of the two past and put them on various forums and platforms for criticism, and every sentence they said was plausible. Oh shit. Even Lee Z, who seldom swears, couldn't help but swear in his heart. Then he logged into a personal app software and sent a message to a person. Lee Z. Suppress the popularity of the posts about Scarlet Witch, and ban all accounts of those who utter insults. T1000. That's right. The person opposite is T1000, which has the most powerful network system in the world as a super artificial intelligence. One afternoon. I have already completed the identity files with 2B, and hacked the files of countries around the world by the way, and even in several important cities, such as Los Angeles, New York, Washington. These urban areas have rented places to form shadow bases. This is exactly the task Lee Z gave to the two of them. Create a Black Shadow superhero organization, and give the two people the second-level authority of the Black Shadow Corps. So that they can develop their organization. At this time, the message replies, T1000, the task is completed. Much better. Lee Z took a look and found that the popular posts about Scarlet Witch were gone. A satisfied smile formed the corner of his mouth. What's wrong? Wanda in her arms raised her head, and saw the corner of the man's mouth carved like a knife, outlining a captivating smile. Can't help but make her feel a little excited. What a man who is naturally demagogic. I saw that the owner of the Chinese restaurant put up new dishes, let's make love together later. Lee Z replied. Well, it's already 6 o'clock, let's go now. Wanda glanced at the clock, it was past 6 o'clock. Good. The two of them didn't hesitate anymore, they simply tidied up and went out. But different from before. When going out this time, the little witch beside her was in a panic. No matter how well she hid it, Lee Z still discovered it. Community apartment building. In the elevator. Wanda raised her head slightly and stared at the monitor from the corner of her eye. The numbers were constantly decreasing, and her heart couldn't help but tighten. He clenched his little white hands tightly and took a deep breath secretly. Witch, take it easy. Lee Z next to her saw her emotions, opened her big warm hand and held the cold little hand, and said softly, most people in this town are very good friends, they won't listen to rumors. Language. Wanda felt the temperature of his palm, and her nervousness was relieved. Anyway, no matter what happens, as long as someone who cares is with you, you will feel better. Ding. When the number on the display reaches 1, the elevator inspection door will open accordingly. Oh shit. Outside the door was an acquaintance, Josh, who was waiting for the elevator. He saw Lee Z and Wanda, obviously a little dazed. There was a hint of fear between his brows. Ahem, Josh. Lee Z saw him frozen in place, and hurriedly coughed to remind him. Sorry, I haven't seen you for a long time, I don't know what to say for a while. Josh came back to his senses suddenly, and greeted him awkwardly. It's okay, you can go to first. Seeing his performance, Lee Z knew that this guy must be afraid of witches in his heart, otherwise he would definitely talk a bunch of nonsense in the past. In order not to let the witch think too much, he hurriedly pushed Josh into the elevator, turned around and walked out of the apartment building with Wanda. The two of them walked out of the dim hall and came to the road shone with the afterglow of the yellow, with a gentle breeze blowing against their faces. But it is obviously a clear and refreshing autumn weather, which makes people feel happy. Couldn't blow away the melancholy in Wanda's eyes. She looked at the man beside her. Actually, Josh is afraid of me, right? Probably. After all, you are the strongest Avenger, and he thought Thor was the strongest Avenger. Lee Z said humorously. He admitted it, but didn't fully admit it. But I hope this sentence will make the witch feel better. I have never fought Thor. How do you know who is stronger and who is weaker? Wanda stopped thinking about it and asked an interesting question. Want to divert attention. Which, believe me, Thor is definitely not your match. Lee Z affirmed. Why? Wanda rubbed her head. In her impression, Thor's strength is very powerful, coupled with his Asgard Protoss identity, it makes people feel aloof. Definitely, anyone who has come into contact with Thor knows from the bottom of his heart that he is full of muscles and has a straightforward personality and no pretensions. But the witch didn't think that she could be Thor's opponent. Because a diligent little witch is definitely much better than an otaku. Lee Z pinched her greasy face. You practice the dark divine book every day, and soon no one will be able to match you. To be honest, Thor in the current timeline is still a big fat man, and there is still a long time before he loses weight. At this stage, he's no match for Scarlet Witch. Not to mention, after the witch is proficient in the Dark God book. According to the performance of the movie, in Stranger 2, she hasn't even fully mastered the Dark God book, and she can't imagine what kind of existence a witch who has developed her potential to the extreme would be. I have nothing else to do except study the Dark God book. Wanda touched Beepin's face, and she still felt a lot better. She had to admit that this man with a demagogic temperament also had a unique magic power in coaxing people. Arrive. Before they knew it, the two had arrived at the Chinese restaurant in the food street. Fortunately, there is not much traffic in the evening, plus it is a rest day, and there is no need to work overtime as usual. Many people prefer to stay indoors and enjoy rare dinners with their families. Lee Z and Wanda found a corner seat and sat down, and ordered a few dishes that they often eat, as well as new dishes that were newly launched in the store today. After a meal, the two still ate and chatted as usual. However, the atmosphere is completely different from before. Today, no matter the restaurant waiter, the front desk, or the guests cast their gazes from time to time, even people passing by outside the window will stop for a moment. Almost everyone's eyes were on their table. There were also some people who wanted to eat in the Chinese restaurant, but when they saw the two people inside, they hesitated and turned to leave. After they came in, almost no customers came back. Some just came to watch the excitement. It's like watching monkeys in a zoo. Everyone's eyes revealed fear, disgust, fear, doubt. Wanda. Lee Z felt the eyes of the people around him, and his face became more gloomy, looking at the witch sitting opposite her with her cheeks full. She doesn't seem to care that much anymore. Been eating without looking up. Lee, the new dishes on the shelves are delicious. Wanda interrupted him, ignoring the eyes of the people around him, and swallowed the food in her mouth hard. He picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and put it in his bowl. Try it, and make it for me later. Lee Z tasted a piece, but the atmosphere of the restaurant made him feel dull. Lee, don't be unhappy. I don't care what they think or think, whatever they do, I don't care. Wanda on the opposite side raised her head after eating, noticed the man's cold expression, wiped the corners of his mouth with a tissue, and said softly, You are right, it's good to have you here, their opinions and ideas don't matter to me. Any effect? You really think so? Lee Z was slightly taken aback. It's hard to say, but I'm innocent anyway. Wanda nodded, she really figured it out. Quentin Baker, who didn't do anything by himself, and wasn't even sure if he had seen a real person, was not afraid of the shadow. Besides, you can't give up your life just because of this matter. I have to spend the rest of my life with Lee Z. Big deal. You can move out of this place. For a moment, Lee Z didn't know how to answer, he only had surprise and distress in his eyes, and the witch looked away. After a while, the two of them finished their meal and walked out of the gate, and the depressive atmosphere in the restaurant was relieved. On the way, the cool evening wind blows, and the last afterglow completely dissipates as the sunset sinks into the sky. The street lights above the head were turned on one after another, and the orange light sprinkled on the road. Lee Z chose a road with fewer people, and occasionally there will be vehicles passing by, mainly to avoid meeting pedestrians. The witch didn't care, but he cared about being distressed. I don't want to see that scene in the restaurant repeated. No matter how openly a person watches it, his heart will be more or less hurt. But no matter how few people are on the road, you will meet people. Many passers-by will leave quickly. There are also children who are not afraid of big things, who are murderers in the distance every day. Lee, ignore them. Wanda glanced at the kid with bigger farts, and grabbed Lee Z who was about to rush out beside her. She could feel Lee Z's emotions, now she was more unstable than herself, and there seemed to be a lot of anger in her heart. I'm really worried that this man will rush over to kick those brats on impulse. Never mind. Let's go back quickly. Lee Z took a deep breath, pulled the woman up and prepared to rush back to the apartment building in one breath. However, at this time, the conversation of several people in the alley made his face suddenly gloomy and he stopped. That's her. Gift crab, among other things. This bitch has a really good figure. She is indeed a poisonous scorpion. She always looks the hottest. Keep your voice down. Don't wait to be strangled by her in the street. Haha. The whole world is paying attention to her now. Her charges have not been cleared. Dare to touch me? It was a few gangsters in the dark alley. They were squatting there smoking cigarettes, and they didn't know what the ingredients were in the smoke. A few people were obviously excited. Seeing the hot Scarlet Witch, their eyes gradually became blurred and wretched. He didn't notice that Li Zi's face was extremely gloomy. Witch, you wait for me here. Li Zi let go of Wanda and strode towards them. He wasn't bad-tempered, nor was he very nice. But no matter how good-tempered a man is, he can't tolerate others insulting his woman. Plum, before Wanda could react, she felt her hand was empty. She turned her head and saw the man had walked into the alley. Hey, that bitch's boyfriend is here. And those gangsters didn't realize the seriousness of the matter, and when they saw Li Zi approaching, they didn't show any vigilance. What kind of threat do they think a thin guy can bring? Boy, are you going to share something with us? One person's eyes fell on the witch not far away, and he grinned obscenely. A thin yellow-skinned monkey probably won't be able to satisfy her. That's why this bitch went to find Peter Parker. It must be that high school student who satisfied her and was willing to be an accomplice. One of them sneered, and he couldn't hide his mouth from being so excited. Didn't notice at all. F***ku. Li Zi has already kicked it unreasonably, a powerful and heavy kick, carrying a terrifying momentum, causing the air to surge and cause bursts of sonic booms. Ripple in the dark and damp alley, whoosh. Whoosh. Boom. Fack. The little gangster standing in the front saw the kicking legs, his brain suddenly woke up, his pupils constricted, and he turned around to avoid it. But he obviously underestimated the foot strength of the Oriental man in front of him. Don't wait for him to make a move. Next second. This powerful and heavy kick has already come, causing the airflow to neigh, and hit the gangster's abdomen fiercely. Boom. Accompanied by a roar that resounded through the alley, the gangster's heart-piercing screams echoed, and his whole body was also smashed against the wall. The bombarded wall cracked, and countless bricks fell off. The gangster fell to the ground and clutched his abdomen, moaning in pain. The collapsed chest seemed to be broken ribs. In the alley, several other gangsters felt the strong wind blowing in their faces. Suddenly he woke up, looking at his companion on the ground who looked like a dead dog. They angrily threw away the cigarette butts in their hands and approached Li Zi. Fack. Are you crazy, boy? Wardfa? What the F***k are you doing? Are you mentally ill? You want to kill him? The few people didn't have the slightest intention of admitting their mistakes, and they all glared at Li Zi, glaring at Li Zi. Plum. Wanda, who was standing at the entrance of the alley, stared blankly at Li Zi. She had rarely seen a man so irritable after being together for so long. In my impression, Li Zi has always been a sunny boy with a gentle temper, and I haven't even heard him utter a bad word. But today he has been unable to control his emotions more than once. There was an indescribable warmth in the witch's heart. She sighed and looked outside the alley. Oh, forget it. Let him vent. Talking. She waved. At the moment, from the alley, people can only see the empty alley, and no one knows what is going on inside. No one will remember that there were a few gangsters standing at the entrance of the alley. Li Zi turned his head and glanced at the witch. He naturally noticed the magical atmosphere fluctuating in the space, and an illusion was set up at the entrance of the alley. Don't think about it, the fixation was done by witches. The witch in scarlet attire shrugged at him, indicating that he could continue. What a wicked little witch. Li Zi smiled, and looked at the gangsters again. His previously gentle gaze suddenly turned cold, revealing a chill. Joel killed him. At this time, the dying gangster on the ground trembled. Damn it. The yellow-skinned monkey has forgotten who the owner of this land is. Joel and the others didn't notice that they were in trouble. He glanced at his companion on the ground, and angrily punched Li Zi. Act recklessly. Li Zi raised his hand to grasp the fist that was coming, and then he rubbed it in his wrist. Click. The bastard named Joel had his hand bones snapped off. The sharp bones pierced through the skin, and the bright red flesh was exposed to the air. Ah. My hand. Another heart-piercing scream echoed in the alley. Josh trembled all over, his legs went limp and he knelt down on the ground. He raised his head and looked at Li Zi in front of him. His extremely cold eyes filled people with fear. An icy chill rushed from the soles of the feet to the top of the head. The remaining gangsters behind them smelled the smell of blood in the air, and they were completely awake from the sense of confusion brought about by Ni Ji Yu Ding. Shit. Everyone go together. Several people rushed forward. Obviously they underestimated Li Zi. He didn't panic at all. A cloud of black mist gathered in his palm. Let's go together so as not to be too troublesome. The words fell. Boom. The black mist was pushed out from the palm and blasted on several people. All of them were overturned to the ground. No, he's also a necromancer. Joel, who was holding his broken hand next to him, saw this scene. His eyes were full of fear. It's only now that I know it's too late. Li Zi's face was gloomy, as if squeezing thick dark clouds. Next second, his fists poured down like a torrential rain, and one punch after another fell with gravity, hitting several people in turn. The gangsters have no power to parry at all, they can only let their fists fall. For a long time, in the dark and damp alley, there were already moans of pain, and a few gangsters were lying on the ground in a bloody mess. There was a strong smell of blood in the air. Li Zi smelled the bloody smell in the air, frowned slightly, and took a few steps back in disgust. Both fists were stained with blood, dripping onto the ground. He was fascinated by the tragic situation in front of him, and he really overestimated his temper. He was still worried that the witch would not be able to stand the accusations and insults from outsiders. In the end, he couldn't stand it first. Maybe it's your own inability to do anything. After all, he was supposed to change the situation and make everything go in a good direction, but now everything has been messed up. Just when Li Zi was in a daze, a pair of small hands held his big hand, stroking the scar on his fist. Li, are your hands okay? It was a witch. She was looking down at her injured hands with her head down. It's okay, it's all their blood. Li Zi looked at the well-behaved witch, and felt even more uncomfortable. He hugged her in his arms and said softly, Wanda, don't worry, I will solve these problems. Li, you've done enough. Let's go back first, illusion will come later. The witch in her arms rubbed against each other like a kitten, then used chaos force to enter an invisible state, and flew towards the community apartment with the man. She didn't notice, however. Li Zi's deep eyes revealed firmness, as if he had made a certain decision. Moment. In a dark and damp alley, Joel and the others slowly opened their eyes. They supported the wall and stood up against their torn bodies. This damned demon is finally gone. Are we going to report the crime? Nonsense. I will never let that guy and his bitch feel good. Joel walked in the front, touching his bloody face. His eyes were full of viciousness. But the companions behind did not respond for a long time. Kate? He turned around with some doubts, and a few men in black appeared in the dark corner, and suddenly reached out and grabbed him and dragged him to the shadow. Woo. No matter how hard he struggled, it was useless, and several men in black dragged him into the shadows. As if falling into an abyss, his eyes went dark and he completely lost consciousness. The penthouse of the community apartment on the other side. Wanda didn't know what happened in the alley. She pulled Li Zi as soon as she came back, sat on the sofa and began to clean the scars on her hands. Even if she didn't want to clean it up, she still had to pull it hard. Does it hurt? The witch held Li Zi's big hand in one hand, and touched the wound with a cotton ball in the other. It was because the beating was too hard and fierce, the skin of the hand was torn, and the exposed flesh was a little blurry. The fist joints of both hands were red and swollen. Witch, you underestimate me too much. I'm not super sweet candy. How could this injury hurt? Li Zi said with a relaxed face. The mouth is stiff, you can see that it is swollen. Wanda held up her big hand distress-edly, thinking that it was a hand that was hurt by herself. Feeling even more distressed, I gently blew on the wound, picked up the cotton ball, and prepared to wipe the dirty place clean. Li Zi sat on the sofa, his hands were held by the witch, and he could only admire the witch's face boredly. Finally, the eyes fell on the witch like cherry lips, which were full, clear and smooth, really like a ripe and attractive cherry. He smiled slightly. Witch, don't you know me best? Li Zi, you are so perverted, your hands are hurt like this, and you still have the mood to think about such things. Wanda raised her head to meet his gaze, and found that the man had been staring at her red lips, and gave him a blank look. I thought this man was controlling his feet and legs, but it turned out that he didn't want to let go of every part of his body. Thinking of this, the witch's face turned red, and she asked in a strange way, you don't mean to try every place I have, do you? Witch, is this what you mean? Li Zi was taken aback for a moment, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth carved like a knife. Definitely not. Wanda blushed when she realized what she said. Seeing the uncontrollable smile on the corner of this guy's mouth, she dipped some iodine on a cotton swab, pretended to smear it viciously on the wound, and gritted her teeth, and you must not have such thoughts. Hiss, absolutely not, I only do what makes you happy. Li Zi raised his eyebrows as he spoke, looking at the shy mist, but the smile on the corner of his mouth could not be suppressed no matter what. A word comes to mind, physical happiness is also happiness. Then you still laugh. Wanda was a little annoyed when she saw the mean smile on the man's face. I poured a small capped bottle of iodine directly to clean the wound on my hand. Hiss. Witch, you murdered your own husband. Li Zi felt the torn flesh in his hand, and there were bursts of tingling pain, and he almost jumped up on the spot. It hurts? Then you still say it doesn't hurt. Seeing that he reacted so violently, Wanda panicked, frantically controlling the bubbles that emerged from the wound. That was caused by too many wound infections. It looks like a real pain. It's your fault, it really hurts. Li Zi grabbed her hand with an aggrieved expression on his face. Then what to do? Wanda's eyes were full of distress. It was the first time she saw the wronged Li Zi. So lovely. However, this idea was just born, and it was broken by a sentence from Li Zi on the opposite side. I need you to comfort me. Sure enough, I look up to this man, and I haven't passed since the relationship was confirmed. Haven't been in a good mood all day and night. You're dreaming. Take care of the rest yourself. I'm going to take a shower first. Wanda would not obey, and gave the man a blank look. My hand is hurt and I can't take a shower, you. Li Zi looked at the shy witch, and couldn't help teasing her. Go away. Wanda didn't wait for him to finish, ran to the balcony to grab the clothes, rushed into the bathroom, and slammed the door shut. Like a deer afraid of being chased by a big bad wolf. Lovely witch. Li Zi smiled helplessly. After getting along for so long, the witch is still shy when facing this kind of thing. So cute. Thinking about it, he waved his hands, and several bandages appeared out of thin air and wrapped around his hands. It is only a matter of thought to recover the injury on his hand, but he has other uses for keeping the injury. Then Li Zi turned and walked into the study. When he was in the alley before, Li Zi had new ideas and decisions in his mind. He wanted to change the situation and could no longer let the incident develop like this. I didn't take care of the plan after Mysterio's death before, that's because originally has little to do with him. Whether it was the Daily Bugle's revelation of Peter Parker's identity, or Peter's childish immaturity, the multi-universe was torn apart. They have nothing to do with Li Zi. He is not a saint, nor is he a nanny, nor will he change anything for no reason. But it's different now. The witch he cares about has also become a pawn of the mysterious guest, so naturally he can no longer sit still. Perhaps when I was reading the original book, I didn't understand why little Spider-Man Peter asked Doctor Strange to perform a trap. Let the world forget about this. But after experiencing it, you can understand what it feels like to be insulted for no reason and regarded as a sinner. What's more, it was condemned by people all over the world. At the moment in the study at the moment. Go and bring them both here. Li Zi locked the door and summoned the Shadow Corps. Delling's Shadow Corps quickly sank into the shadows, and a few minutes later, they appeared in the study with two people. Exactly T-1002B. Li, what do you want us to do? 2B wondered. Why do you call me Li? Li Zi was stunned for a moment. She didn't seem to have taught her, she was really smart, and she didn't take it to heart after thinking about it. Forget it. I need you to find someone. Wilhelm, former director of Stark Industries' Weapon Development Department. Wilhelm. It was the guy who made that video, and Quentin Baker's third post partner. Once an important research and development personnel of Stark Group. A genius, but also an abandoned genius. Wilhelm searched his profile. T-1000's eyes flickered, and he searched all the information about Wilhelm in a moment, including his important life experiences from childhood to adulthood. Find him and bring him alive to me, Li Zi said in a deep voice. Now that the rumors in that video have spread, even getting Wilhelm to come forward and clarify won't do much. People will always be biased. But he wouldn't let Wilhelm, with the money he earned from breaking the news, go about his business outside. He wanted this guy to witness with his own eyes that 10 years of hard work in building the superhero Mysterio was completely ruined. Yes. T-1000 nodded. And to lure Doctor Strange away tonight, I'm going to the Kamar Taj holy place in New York. Naturally, it was impossible for Li Zi to call the two of them just for Wilhelm's sake. This guy is not the most important link. The most important thing is the ancient forbidden magic hidden deep in the bottom of the holy place, and Doctor Strange Stephen uses that magic. Let the world forget little Spider-Man Peter, definitely even relatives and friends have forgotten him. Because of Stephen's lack of strength, he couldn't control this spell at all. However, there was also little Spider-Man Peter making trouble, which finally led to the consequences of the three insects in the same frame. Li Zi intends to make good use of this ancient forbidden magic, which is the best choice to solve the current problem. By the way, go to the holy place to see if Ancient One has other forbidden techniques in the library. Just after everything is arranged, boom boom boom. The voice of the witch came from outside the door. Li, are you in the study? Seeing this, Li Zi hurriedly waved his hand to let the two leave with the shadow core, while he sat down in front of the chair and turned on the computer. Click. As soon as the two left, the witch pushed open the door and walked in. She saw the man sitting in front of the computer with a game on. She frowned slightly. You're all injured, and you're still playing games. It's okay, it won't affect the operation. As Li Zi said, the manipulator showed a hand to snipe people in seconds. Is that what I meant? Wanda was speechless, and suddenly thought of a question. Is it more important for a man to play games or have a girlfriend? That's a weird question. Why would anyone ask that? She pulled Li Zi. Go, take a shower and go to sleep. But my hand is injured and I can't touch the water. How can I wash it myself? Li Zi raised his bandage-wrapped hand. If it touches water, the medicine will be reapplied, and it will cause infection. It seems that a person really can't wash. Wanda stroked her snow-white chin and fell into thought. Do you really want to help him wash it? How can I do that? Then I will definitely be eaten clean by this guy. Phew, not right. Just having this idea is wrong, it's too dirty. But when she was struggling, Li Zi next to her had already picked her up, and ran towards the bathroom with big strides. Don't be dazed, it's up to you. Ah? Wanda in his arms came back to his senses in a daze. What's the situation? No, hurry up and put it down. Wanda in his arms came back to his senses, pushing the man with his greasy white hands, trying to break free from the restraints, but he was like Tarzan not letting go. In desperation, the witch had no choice but to change her strategy, raising her beautiful eyes that were as clear as a pool of water. Li, can you just let me down? I've already installed the water for you. No, my hands are all hurt, and I can't wash them alone. Li Zi turned his gaze away from her eyes, shook his head resolutely, with a plausible expression on his face. Witch, you don't want my hands to get infected, do you? Wanda was at a loss for words for a while, not knowing how to answer this question. I can't seem to find a place to refute, and the man hurt his hand because he vented his anger on himself. If you don't help him, if you were really infected. At that time, the person who feels distressed is also myself. So don't resist anymore, wash and finish early. Li Zi saw that the witch in her arms had a troubled expression on her face, and the smirk raised at the corner of her mouth could no longer be suppressed, like a big bad wolf only trying to succeed. As expected of me, I intentionally left the wound on my hand, so that I can let the witch help me openly. Wanda was stunned for a moment, until she saw the door of the bathroom. She suddenly came back to her senses. She was bewitched by this man again. She struggled to jump down. No, let me down quickly, I have other ways to let you take a bath. Any solution? Li Zi wondered what other ways the little witch could do. My chaos force can help you wash in the air. Wanda bit her lip and said this. Her pretty face flushed suddenly and she buried herself in his arms. Can it still be like this? Alright. Li Zi nodded helplessly. Now he can't find any other excuses. But his eyes fell on the witch's blushing face, and he was a little speechless. Witch, are you plotting something? Just use a chaos force to be so shy. No, stop talking nonsense, go inside and wait, I can manipulate the water flow without looking. Wanda shook her head vigorously, jumped down and pushed the man into the bathroom. After closing the door, she leaned against the door and took a deep breath, looking at a mirror next to her. A beautiful face. After bathing, the skin was already rosy and pink, but after what happened just now, it was even more rosy and pink. Wanda patted her hot face hard. I actually promised Li Zi to help him with Chaos Force. Outsiders may not know it, but when she uses Chaos Force, she can feel the touch of Chaos Force in the air. That is, as long as she wants, she can get the tactile sensation of Scarlet Power touching objects at any time, and touch Li Zi. After all, Chaos Force originally has a spiritual attribute, and it communicates with the owner's mind. Chaos Force can be regarded as the other hands of a witch. Otherwise, when fighting on weekdays, how did she distinguish the mechanical structure and dismantle it? Not through stroking through the air. Witch? Are you not ready yet? Li Zi yelled impatiently in the bathroom. It will be fine soon. Wanda said, took a deep breath and touched her hot face. Phew, Wanda, just don't think wildly. In the bathroom. Li Zi was lying in the bathtub with only her head and hands exposed, her body completely submerged in the water, leisurely waiting for the witch's service. I could hear the voice of the witch outside trembling. Your voice is a bit strange, witch. Who is weird? Don't think about it, lie in the bathtub and don't move. The voice of the witch came from outside. Then the towel hanging on the wall glowed red, as if an invisible hand grabbed it, and then flew towards Li Zi. There is a sense of déjà vu when I am shooting a supernatural film. Li Zi looked up at the flying towel and couldn't help complaining. It is really similar, and it has a feeling of Hong Kong movies in the 1980s and 1990s. He thought it was funny and couldn't help but reached out and pulled the towel. The towel retreated as if stimulated. Interesting. Li Zi knew that the witch was controlling the towel, so she reached out and grabbed the towel and threw it down. Li, put it down quickly. If you talk nonsense, I will leave you alone. Outside the door. Wanda was a little annoyed. She seemed to make a quick decision, and this guy actually messed up halfway. It must be on purpose. Every time I want to tease myself. Okay, I won't move, you continue. Li Zi's voice came from inside. Stop moving around. Wanda felt that the towel was no longer restrained, and continued to manipulate the towel, preparing to wash the man's hair. However, she soon realized a problem. I can't see what's inside, how can I judge the position of my head? Forget it. It's just one time anyway, as long as you find the position and help him mess around. Wanda blushed decisively, and then a burst of scarlet light appeared in her palm. Meanwhile, in the bathroom. There seemed to be an outline of an extra hand under the towel, but it disappeared in a blink of an eye. Why haven't you started? Just as Li Zi complained in the bathtub, the towel fell on his head. It seemed that a little hand began to rub his hair for him, and he used the shower gel thoughtfully. He thought the witch was just washing it briefly. But the towel kept rubbing and pressing the acupuncture points. It makes people feel poor relaxed, and there is an indescribable comfort in my heart. Li Zi leaned his head on the bathtub with a satisfied face. It's comfortable. Sure enough, it is always a pleasure to have someone help you wash your hair, especially when you have a massage while washing your hair. It can make you feel extremely refreshed. Besides, someone you like will wash it for you. Let's count as half. Outside the bathroom. This guy. Wanda was standing outside the door. Hearing the man's long and comfortable cry, she frowned speechlessly. Is his happiness so simple? She yawned. I'm a little sleepy. Help him wash up and go back to sleep. As he spoke, he manipulated the shower head to rinse off the bubbles on the man's head, put the towel in the water, washed it, and wrung it out. Since she couldn't see inside, she could only use the previous method again. Condensed into a small hand with chaos force, fumbled towards the man's hair. However, the next second. Wanda felt that something was wrong. She didn't seem to be touching her hair, so she rubbed and squeezed it through the towel. It's not really hair, it's abdomen, to be exact, abs. Clearly textured lines, angular muscle mass. It's hard to put it down to the touch. Soon Wanda realized what she was doing. Her face flushed suddenly. What am I doing? If found out, I will throw dead man. Speaking of which. She froze immediately and didn't dare to move. After waiting for a few seconds and seeing no movement from the man inside, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It's good if you don't find it. Hurry up and help him rush. After experiencing this, she realized that the longer the delay, sooner or later it will be noticed. After all, Li Zi is so smart, it will be a matter of time before he realizes it. Witch, what are you doing? At this time, Li Zi's voice came from inside, which startled Wanda. She hurriedly replied, I went to drink water just now, and I will help you right away. Immediately, he quickly manipulated the towel and was about to continue cleaning. However, I don't know if I was too flustered. She obviously touched her head, but it felt very wrong. Touch it. It seems to be a strong and powerful chest, and then touch it. The collarbone is perfect. Touch it well. Further up is the Adam's apple and the sculpted chin. Wanda moved the towel calmly, stroked through the towel. It feels so good. This touch is really intriguing, and it reminds Tata of the scene in the bathroom that night. It can be next second. A muffled cry came from the bathroom. Witch. What are you doing? Your scarlet power has a perception ability. Why does the towel keep stroking my body? The sudden voice interrupted Wanda. She heard the man's words clearly. Her heart seemed to stop suddenly. The clear eyes are full of panic, like a student who has been caught. His earlobes are flushed with embarrassment. Hiss. Dead. Was discovered. What could be more embarrassing than being caught on the spot? I didn't. Don't talk nonsense. Outside the door, Wanda leaned against the door. Her fair and pretty face was flushed and tender, like a young girl who tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time. Real? Li Zi's doubts came from inside, revealing a lot of distrust. Really, don't think that everyone is as dirty as you, with some yellow waste in their heads every day. Wanda took a deep breath and said loudly. Anyway, he couldn't find evidence, as long as he refused to admit it. But witch, I suddenly want to ask you a question. In the bathroom, Li Zi's eyes flooded through the door, and he saw the witch squatting there with a blushing face, and the corner of her mouth couldn't help but smile. What? Wanda is curious. What is this man going to do again? Didn't notice any difference. If your scarlet power has no sense of touch, how do you judge my body parts? Could it be that you can see through? In the bathtub, Li Zi tugged at the towel wrapped in scarlet light. Don't talk nonsense, I'm all telepathy as big as. Wanda panicked, leaned against the door stiffly, and hurriedly gave a far-fetched explanation. These questions are all on point. Damn Li Zi, as long as he knew it in his heart, he actually said it out. At this time, slight footsteps came from the bathroom, which made the witch look stunned. Next second, the door opened suddenly, and she didn't have time to react and fell backwards on all fours. He raised his head just in time to meet Li Zi, who came out. Fortunately, he was wearing pants. Witch, I just said it casually, is it true? Li Zi looked at the witch with all 4 feet in the sky, and seemed to think of something, and was taken aback for a moment. The previous question was purely to tease the witch, who told the disobedient little witch not to concentrate on helping herself. But now he suddenly remembered one thing. The scarlet power has spiritual attributes, and he forgot about it, just enjoying the comfort of the witch washing her hair. Because the power of scarlet is to use the mind to manipulate objects through the air, it can even disassemble the weapon. If the witch didn't have a sense of touch, he wouldn't believe it could be done so smoothly. Unless she has clairvoyance, obviously impossible. Hear this. Wanda on the ground stood up with the help of the wall. Her body was wet with water. She lowered her head and dared not look at Li Zi. Fake, I'm not that superficial. After speaking, he immediately strode towards the living room. You want to run away after doing something bad? Li Zi saw that she had such a big reaction, and immediately knew that his guess was right. Sure enough, the witch did something unspeakable. He dragged the trapped witch back, and pressed it hard against the wall. Witch, don't you know that when you are lying, you dare not look at people? Who said I dare not? Wanda panicked completely. Now she couldn't escape the man's palm at all. Now that he knew his sneaky expression just now, he might do something excessive. The witch knew that she was not only embarrassed by the situation, but also that her clothes were completely wet when she fell down just now. Because I just took a shower and wore thin pajamas, it became transparent after touching the water. Especially with the milky white shoulders and beautiful collarbone, it makes people feel beautiful and delicious. You mean to admit that you lied? Li Zi embraced the warm and fragrant nephrite in his arms, and stretched out his hands to pinch the witch's hot face. He smiled, with the expression on his face like a big villain catching his prey. You're so shy. Why don't you say you're not lying? If you didn't lie, you didn't lie. I don't care about your little stuff. It's emaciated and weak. Wanda turned her face away and said disgusted, but she couldn't help taking a sneak peek from the corner of her eye. Sweep to the Adam's apple. So sexy, it made her pretty face hot for a while. I'm false? You want to challenge me? Li Zi coughed a few times, unable to restrain himself. The current scene. It's like giving military training to the little brothers all the time. It's a bit tortuous. No, Li, you know that I like to talk nonsense when my mind is hot, you really have to believe me. Realizing that the situation was not good, Wanda's face turned white and red with fright, the corners of Lu Yi's eyes were filled with tears, and Ruanxiang's body was too rigid to move. If I move again, I'm afraid something will happen. But misfortune comes out of the mouth, and children who say the wrong thing will be punished. Li Zi nodded her tender red lips, and said in an unstable tone, if you say something wrong, you will be punished. Li, can I not? I'm a little tired. Wanda understands. If she knew earlier, she should not have agreed to help the man take a bath. In the end, I didn't put myself in it. And I haven't touched it enough. I haven't touched it. Blood loss. Wanda originally wanted to crouch down and run away. But Li Zi held his head down. Wanda exhales hot air. This pose is so weird and embarrassing. It's also good for the occasion. For the situation. For a long time, the valve of the bathtub in the bathroom was opened, the water inside was emptied, and the sound of water flowing into the sewer echoed. Nausea. Wanda emptied the water in the bathtub, and felt flushed when she heard the sound of running water. It's so fitting. Her face was flushed, and the toothbrush in her hand was repeatedly brushing vigorously. Then forcefully spit out the water in the mouth. After brushing, Wanda looked at the pair of sparkling eyes in the mirror, touched and licked the red corners of her mouth. Her lips were so worn out. Witch, are you reminiscing? Li Zi leaned against the door and saw this scene, and couldn't help laughing. Get out. Who wants to reminisce? Hurry up and get out of here. I have to take a new bath. I blame you for causing me to waste fresh water resources, and you will cause the earth to have no water to drink in the future. Wanda was ashamed and angry like a kitten with fur, with an expression of wanting to bite the man to death, and slammed the door shut. Bang. The sound of closing the door resounded, directly shutting the man out. Why? It's still so funny. Li Zi looked at the irascible witch, shook her head helplessly, turned and walked towards the sofa. At this moment, the phone in his pocket rang. Ding. He looked down at the message, his gentle expression suddenly turned cold. T-1000. Mission accomplished, Wilhelm caught. The message sent by the T-1000 is also accompanied by a document, which is the action log recording the capture of Wilhelm. The person was found in Hawaii. After receiving the reward from the Daily Bugle, this guy left the country directly the next day, intending to spend the rest of his life abroad. By the way, he watched a great show of the century that he led alone, but unfortunately he never expected that there would be an unexpected factor of Li Z. It's very efficient. After reading the action log, Li Z put away the phone in satisfaction. It took only about an hour to find the whereabouts of Wilhelm, which was unexpected. Moreover, the Sombra organization is only in its infancy. If it continues to develop, even the intelligence network mastered by S.H.I.E.L.D. in the past may not be as strong as the Sombra organization. But he wasn't in a hurry to get Wilhelm to be brought here. After all, Wanda was still up, and if he found out that there was a problem, it would be the end of the calf. The plan is a step forward. Li Z stretched his waist, seeing that the time was running out. So he went back directly to the bedroom and waited for the witch. He lay on the big soft bed, took a long breath with tiredness on his brows, and picked up the remote control to turn on the wall-mounted TV. The TV is broadcasting real-time news. The camera is from the perspective of a helicopter, overlooking an apartment building below. The location is bustling, and there are many people around the apartment building. Peter's house. Li Z frowned slightly, and recognized that the apartment building in the picture was Peter Parker's home, and now he was being watched from all angles. Patrollers in the FBI are patrolling the surrounding area at all times. Compared with Scarlet Witch, media reporters and officials pay more attention to Peter Parker. Because he was the mastermind in the mysterious guest incident, the murderer who shot and killed the mysterious guest. And Little Spider-Man is also the most popular, and it is still in Queens, with a dense population, so it naturally receives more attention from the authorities. Poor Peter, can't sleep well at night. Li Z muttered and changed the channel, switched to the sports channel, and saw that he lost interest in the boring billiards, so he lowered his head and surfed with his laptop. Let the TV play and add some warmth to the cold bedroom. Click. After a while, the door opened, and a beautiful figure walked in cautiously. When she saw the man who was still on the bed, she frowned. Why are you still not asleep? If you don't come with me, I won't be able to sleep. Li Z put down his notebook when he heard the movement, and looked up at her. The witch took a bath again. Her skin was milky and white, which made people want to take a bite. If it weren't for only one bed, I wouldn't sleep with you. Wanda licked her sour lips. Feeling so angry, she lay down on the bed and pulled off the quilt, wrapping her hands tightly around her body. Witch, are you going to freeze me to death? Li Z could not help shivering when he felt the cold air coming. The scariest thing when the weather is cold is nothing more than being ripped away by someone as soon as the quilt is warmed up. The feeling of that moment is like a bone-chilling cold wind. Cold to death, forget it. Wanda frowned, bit her thin lips and turned her back to him. Tigers don't show their power, treat me as a sick cat. He only knows how to bully himself all day long, and tonight he is bound to fight against the evil forces to the end. Really angry? Li Z poked the witch's head. Don't bother me, I'm going to sleep. Wanda slapped his hands off angrily, and buried her head in the bed without even looking at him. Witch, I will give you a massage as compensation, don't be angry, okay? Seeing that the witch was really angry, Li Z rubbed her head through the bed to please her. Real? When Wanda heard that there was compensation, she immediately poked her head out, with an expectant look on her face. You have even learned massage, but you have never massaged for me. As she said that, she raised her brows and felt a little displeased. She hadn't enjoyed getting along with her for so long. My Lord Witch, how long did it take for us to confirm the relationship? And let's talk about the previous relationship. With your thin skin, are you willing to let me press it? Li Z patted her on the head, making the woman sober and sober. It doesn't matter if you didn't press it for me anyway. Today's compensation will be counted together with the previous one, and I can only press it until I feel comfortable, otherwise I won't forgive you. Wanda raised her snow-white neck with an undeniable look on her face. Alright. Lie down first, I'll turn on the air conditioner. Seeing that the witch agreed, Li Z raised an imperceptible smile on the corner of his mouth, a proper villain's smile, like a big bad wolf who has succeeded in his scheme. The little sheep, Wanda, didn't notice the difference, and lay comfortably on the big soft bed, waiting for the man's massage. Don't move around, it's starting. A man's voice came from behind. Uh-huh. The witch slowly closed her eyes, looking forward to what kind of surprises this almighty man would bring her. After all, he can cook, magic and kung fu, and now he can massage. His personality is sunny and funny. He is simply a perfect man who couldn't be more perfect. Moment. The heat from the air conditioner gradually filled the room. The massage started and Li Zi did not disappoint. The massage technique is very good and comfortable, starting from the cervical spine and shoulders, all the way to the waist. Don't miss every key acupuncture point. The pain is ecstasy when you press it down. Stiff cervical spine and shoulders all day long, and sore waist can be relieved and relaxed. The hands rubbed the acupuncture points repeatedly, and the softness around the waist was constantly releasing and sore. Wanda's pretty face flushed with comfort, and she couldn't help but groan softly. Comfortable? Li Zi asked softly, and increased his strength as he spoke. Strengthen. Wanda felt the stimulation brought by the acupuncture points, her black and beautiful eyelashes trembled slightly, and her tender red face was full of satisfaction, wishing that the man would push harder. When massaging, the most comfortable point is often the sore acupoints. The stronger the force, the more comfortable the whole body will be. My man is strong. Massage is so powerful, at the moment witch's heart. However, when she was enjoying it, suddenly the man's hand caught her feet. Li, what are you doing grabbing my feet? It is said that the feet are one of the most sensitive parts of a woman. Definitely the most important thing is to gently rub the soles of the feet, which will make people feel itchy. Wanda sobered up a lot once she was caught. You need to massage your feet too. Li Zi looked innocent, and then pretended to be displeased. As a boyfriend, don't I even have the right to touch my feet? As he spoke, he stroked the soles of the witch's translucent feet like punishment. Well. No, can you stop touching? Wanda snorted a few times, and fell asleep quickly turning red. Witch, you seem a little sensitive. Li Zi was slightly taken aback, and immediately realized that he seemed to have caught the witch again. Her feet seemed to be more sensitive than she imagined, and she couldn't help but have strange thoughts in her mind. Don't talk nonsense. It's all your fault at the German hotel. It made me feel so strange that I would have such a reaction. Wanda recalled that time, that is, since the German hotel. She just felt that being touched by someone's feet always felt strange. Really? But it's very comfortable to press the feet, witch, you have to bear with it. Li Zi behind him showed a smirk, and pinched the woman's crystal clear little toes with his big hands. The pink was tender and slippery. Just don't do weird things. Wanda snorted softly. With the lessons learned from using her mouth, now she always feels that this man wants to try his whole body. I'm not a pervert. What can I do? As he spoke, Li Zi began to massage while admiring the woman's long, glowing white legs and cute, translucent little feet. Have a say if you are a masseur, when you massage a beautiful woman with long legs. That's not work, that's enjoyment. A pair of white, long and slender legs, with a white and greasy feel from the beginning to the end, will really make you feel good from the beginning to the end. And the witch has a pair of slender jade legs, white and smooth as jade, making people fondle admiringly. The original 10-minute leg massage, Li Zi abruptly dragged on for 20 minutes, but every acupuncture point was pressed in place. Let the witch blush and hum softly, soothing to the bliss. Call. Wanda was overwhelmed, and she lay limp on the bed. Her pretty face was flushed, her clear eyes were blurred, clear tears welled up in the corners of Lu Yi's eyes. She opened her mouth slightly to exhale blue air, and the tip of her tender tongue was slightly exposed. Okay, the massage is over. Good night. Li Zi leaned over and whispered in her ear, patted the witch's head lightly, put her arms around her and covered her with the quilt. Wanda hummed in response, undergoing an ecstasy massage. She, who was already physically and mentally exhausted, had been drowsy for a long time, and soon fell asleep after responding, with a faint smile on her mouth. Witch? Li Zi called softly, but she didn't respond before slowly getting up and walking towards the next room. For witches, the day is over. But for him, it was just the beginning, just after the matter of Wilhelm's mother was dealt with while the witch was asleep. Also go to the Kamar Taj holy place in New York to find the ancient forbidden art hidden deep under the holy place. In fact, Li Zi can try to use creation magic to create a similar ancient forbidden technique. But it takes a long time. After all, the more complex things are created, the longer it will take. He couldn't wait, and neither could Wanda. So it's better to just take the ready-made ones and transform them. If you have a foundation and then use the creation magic to transform, everything will be much easier. Thinking that he has come to the study, Li Zi sent a message using a private app, which was developed by T-1000 and will not be eavesdropped by anyone. At least no one on Earth can do it. Bring Wilhelm here. T-1000. Li Zi locked the door tightly with a wave of his hand, and then a big chair appeared in front of him. The chair depicting Veyron was magnificent, which made people feel afraid when they saw it. Not yet. He glanced at the time. 1 minute had passed since T-1000 was notified. It was previously learned that the T-1000 was staying in Hawaii. It seems that the marching ability of the Shadow Core is not very strong even after the magic modification, and it is not as good as the arbitrary door of the Kamar Taj dimension. You can travel to where you want to go in a single thought. The definitely dimension portal seems to be known to many people, but it is from the hand of the ancient god Waishandi, and there are 3 powerful existences. The created dimensional portal is naturally not bad. But Li Zi's Shadow Core can travel all over the world through the shadows. Such an ability is also shocking to the whole world. If any country knew about the ability of the Shadow Core, they would probably turn pale with shock. The reason is very simple. From ancient times to the present, whether it is the Middle Ages, or the Ming Dynasty, or the Yingzheng unified the 6 countries, or modern warfare, the most important thing in the military is transportation. A powerful transportation ability can constantly provide reinforcements to the front line. For example, the front line runs out of food, but our side can replenish it in time, while the enemy needs to wait. So in this long-term tug of war, who wins and who loses has already been decided. Not to mention, Li Zi's Black Shadow Core still has an extremely large number, and there are countless people in several large core. He hadn't even counted how many people there were in the entire Black Shadow Core. Buzz. Just as he was thinking, there was a faintly lit area in the study that showed shadows, and at the moment rippled like water. Along with the waves, several figures emerged. Boss, someone brought it. T-1000 escorted a bald middle-aged man with a blindfold on his face. He was trembling all over, and he staggered a few steps to the front and knelt down. Li. What are we going to do with him? 2B also came with her. She looked at Wilhelm, who was kneeling on the ground. The long sword behind her was slightly floating. It seems that the sword will cut off Wilhelm's head at the command of the master. Don't kill me. Everyone has something to say. Kneeling on the ground, Wilhelm's mother was terrified and kowtowed to beg for forgiveness. Do you know what you did wrong? Li Zi, who was sitting on the chair, spoke slowly, with a gloomy and indifferent voice. For a while, the temperature of the surrounding air dropped sharply. I don't know. Your people didn't say anything, they just arrested me. Wilhelm shook his head vigorously when he heard the cold voice. He really doesn't know. More than an hour ago, I was still on vacation in Hawaii, enjoying the baptism of the sea breeze, hugging left and right and enjoying the service of beauties. As a result, on the way back to the hotel, he was kidnapped by a group of masked men, and he didn't say anything when asked, and no one talked to him until now. Know the mystery Quentin Baker? Li Zi asked in a deep voice. I know him, an immortal superhero, but I don't know him. Wilhelm was slightly taken aback when he heard that, and immediately denied it. But his tone is full of admiration, and there is also a hint of arrogance that cannot be concealed, as if the mysterious guest's name will go down in history like his own. Hey, talking nonsense. Li Zi shook his head. He wanted to make it easier for this guy to leave. After all, it is useless for an ordinary person to keep him. There is no need to torture him to force a confession. Besides, in front of a magician, many people can lie. It's a pity that giving the opportunity is useless, and he still refuses to admit it until now. What do you mean by that? I don't understand. Wilhelm's heart skipped a beat, and he actually started with the first question. He vaguely guessed something in his heart. I just want to take a gamble, and he will never say anything about the mysterious guest. Quentin Baker is actually an engineer of the Stark Group and the director of the Second Structure Project. The technology he invented was used by Tony Stark and improved into a psychotherapy program because it can project and simulate the most realistic psychological scenes. However, Quentin Baker felt that Tony Stark had insulted his invention, so he resigned angrily, and kept looking for opportunities to get revenge. Now that Tony is dead, Quentin's opportunity finally came. He used the information gap to perfectly design the identity of the outsider mystery guest, in an attempt to become a superhero. Li Zi spoke with a bit of emotion, not marveling at the mind and methods of the mysterious Quentin. Instead, I think Tony Stark really deserves to be the big three of Marvel. Even though he has passed away, there is still his figure in the book, and even his hair was revealed and caused chaos in the world. Mysterio is just one of them. I do not know what you're talking about. Wilhelm still strongly denied it. Listen to me first. Kunshan Shell finally made the mysterious guest famous. Li Zi stood up slowly, and his tone gradually turned cold. The most critical step is the last video you exposed. Sorry, sir, please let me go back. Your kidnapping is a crime. America will never tolerate such a thing. When Wilhelm heard this, he immediately realized that he couldn't hide. But he would never admit to the mystery guest. So many years of painstaking efforts are to make the name of the mysterious guest go down in history. Show those ridiculously self-righteous superheroes that anyone can do it, not just a bunch of Avengers in pajamas. As for the Daily Bugle will not expose the truth about the mystery man, as the largest local newspaper in New York, it will not do anything to self-destruct its reputation. What's more, this revelation brought them countless fame and fortune. I know that you want to create a superhero, but it's a pity that when you do everything you can to achieve your goal, and even intentionally hurt innocent people, all this is destined to not come true. Li Zi is very angry. He is neither a saint nor a virgin, but at least he will not kill indiscriminately for a false name. Definitely more angry, Scarlet Witch was also slandered by them. Thinking of this, Li Zi said coldly, "But don't worry, your lies will soon cease to exist. Take him away and lock him up first. Nick Fury should like him very much. After all, this guy and his cohorts are playing shield like a monkey." "What? No, you can't do that." Wilhelm panicked instantly when he heard it. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s methods are far more cruel than ordinary people imagine, and being amputated there is a trivial matter. Not to mention he played Commissioner Nick Fury. Wilhelm said loudly, "I would like to clarify everything." "Shut up. It's late. And keep your voice down. If you wake up the neighbor next door, you will die even worse." Talking. Li Zi waved impatiently for someone to take him away. And after Wilhelm was taken away, a ray of soul transformed from his body, and Black Mist's own appearance was exactly the same. This is the technique of spiritualization, splitting a spirit body that is undoubtedly the same as the main body. He's going to the Kamar Taj holy place in New York. The reason why he used the technique of spiritualization was because he had gone out to a designated hiding place before. You have to stay for 7 days after you come back before you can go out again. So I can only go out with the technique of spiritualization, which does not violate the regulations. As for why not let T-1000 or 2B go, it is because the strength of the two is not enough. It's useless to go, after all, no matter how weak Doctor Strange is, he was also the Sorcerer Supreme hand-picked by Ancient One before his death. Although Shuo Mie was usurped by the king for 5 years, his strength is still there. In Manhattan, New York, a building that looks like an old church, at the moment, the night is quiet and the streets are empty. With the help of the weak light, one could only slightly see a flash of white light in front of several shelves in the circular window. A figure emerged like a ghost, his whole body exuded a faint gleam, not a real entity, just like a soul astral. I don't know if Doctor Strange is still around. The person who came was Li Zi in a spirit state, similar to a soul but able to condense into a solid body. He looked around at the quiet environment around him. Outsiders do not know that this ancient church is actually one of the holy places of Kamar Taj. In order to resist the invasion of Mephisto, the magicians of Kamar Taj set up 3 holy places on the earth. They are Holy Place in New York, Holy Place in London, and Holy Place in Hong Kong. The 3 holy places firmly guard the earth. If there is an invasion of the dimension Mephisto, it must first fight against the power of the holy places. And each holy place will send a powerful big magician to guard the holy place to ensure safety. Let it be transported steadily without any mistakes. As the Sorcerer Supreme Stephen Strange before the flickering, he was sent to guard the holy place in New York. Instead of Wong Magician's previous work in New York Holy Place, definitely before that, Stephen would often come here to chat with Wong. Commonly known as drop-in, now the positions of the two have been reversed, but their relationship is still very friendly, and they don't care about Sorcerer Supreme. I remember the forbidden books are recorded on the ancient wall in the basement. Li Zi muttered. He found a book and took a look. They are all magic books collected by Kamar Taj from all over the world for thousands of years, and most of the magic books stored in the holy place are ordinary spells. Only in the Kamar Taj library, there are ancient and powerful magic, even dark magic forbidden. So Li Zi just glanced at it briefly, and was not interested in reading any more. For him, these things were too simple. "Who's in?" "Wong." At this moment, footsteps came from the stairway, and a voice with an English accent. With such an iconic voice, it doesn't take long to know it's Doctor Strange Stephen. Sure enough, Stephen, who was wearing a red cloak for a moment, came in from the corner and walked straight to Li Zi. However, there was still doubt in his eyes, and he strode forward, directly passing through Li Zi's body. "No one?" Stephen was a little puzzled. The cloak on his back fluttered around the library a few times, and then flew back to his back. "Well, it may be my illusion." He touched the cloak, walked downstairs with a book in his hand with a tired face, muttering, "Winter magic. Interesting. I didn't notice it at all. It seems that the spirit transformation technique was very successful." Seeing this, Li Zi quickly followed Stephen's footsteps, and at the same time was a little surprised. The other party would naturally not notice him. When creating the technique of spiritualization before, it was created based on the concept of killing people as invisible. And the spirit body can be materialized like a physical body, or it can be virtualized like a soul. When blurring, the sense of existence will be minimized, and will not be touched by real objects or any form of energy. Definitely these are limited to one's own strength, above the opponent. Otherwise, facing the level of OAA is tantamount to death. Sir, it's getting late, why don't you go to bed? Following Stephen to the downstairs, a French apprentice who was cleaning heard the footsteps and greeted him politely. Get ready. I'm going down. Stephen put away the book in his hand, put it on the table and said in a deep voice, if Wang and Sterling come, let them come down and find me. Good sir. The little Fatu nodded. Going to the basement? Li Zi frowned slightly, it seemed that he came just in time. Previously, I was worried about finding the location of the basement. After all, this place is the holy place, the intersection of cosmic energy. Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One set up a formation here with the help of powerful energy, and he couldn't directly enter the basement through the ability of the Shadow Core. It cannot be entered through other displacement or teleportation magic. Fortunately, Stephen came with an assist and led him into the long corridor of the ancient basement in a short while. On both sides of the dark and dry corridor, there are burning candles that will never be extinguished, reflecting on the uneven walls. Walking all the way to the end, the narrow corridor suddenly opened up. It was a quaint medieval-style underground hall, but the walls had collapsed due to disrepair. Countless wall bricks are stacked, and many ancient texts are depicted on them. Walking inside, you can still see many tables and chairs filled with magic equipment, and many grooves for statues. Li Zi recognized that place as in the original book, where several people from the multi-universe Dr. Octopus were imprisoned. Where did I put that wall brick? Stephen in front walked over talking to himself, rummaging through some ancient bricks placed on the table. There was seriousness between his brows, and his tone became more relaxed for a moment. I found it. I hope Peter Parker won't come looking for me. Sure enough, the most insidious person in the world must be the magician. Li Zi glanced at the writing on the wall bricks. Although it was somewhat obscure, he could probably guess that it was the amnesia technique used by Stephen in the original book to erase the memory of the world. Obviously Doctor Strange guessed from the beginning that little Spider-Man Peter would definitely come to him for help. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to agree. Few things in this world escape the eyes of a magician, let alone one of the most powerful magicians on Earth. Well, I hope everything will be as usual. Stephen shook his head, and pressed down on the wall brick with one hand to record the words of the spell. Turn around and walk into the corridor and go upstairs. However, he didn't notice that after he left, the wall tiles on the tabletop were lifted up and put down gently again. No wonder it is regarded as a forbidden technique, which is a bit interesting. Li Zi scanned the magic spells on the wall tiles, with a slightly surprised smile on the corner of his mouth. As a magician, he has no resistance to such a strong forbidden technique, let alone this forbidden technique touch the rules of the universe. And he discovered that the amnesia band technique can not only erase the memory of the world, but also contains the creator's deep understanding of magic. If you can penetrate it completely, you may be able to use this forbidden technique to create more powerful magic. Call. What else can I think about? It's important to do business first. Li Zi shook his head, put his hands on the wall bricks, and then his fingertips glowed with a faint gleam, wrapping around the wall bricks. In fact, after just a few glances, he has already learned this spell, which is the powerful comprehension brought about by creating magic. Let him learn any kind of magic spell in the world, easily. As for why the spell is cast here, the reason is very simple. No matter with his or Doctor Strange's strength, it is impossible to use this spell easily without external force. Although the spell is to erase memory, it actually interferes with reality, and it is this characteristic that causes confusion in the multi-universe. Such a powerful spell requires the help of the cosmic energy hidden underground in the holy place. It can be understood as a fantasy aura. The energy flows to the lower places, and the place under Li Zi's feet is the intersection of cosmic energy. It gathers endless energy, which is one of the reasons why the holy place was built here, because the formation requires a huge energy resistance dimension Mephisto. In the original book, Doctor Strange also came here to perform the forbidden technique. Call. Li Zi took a deep breath, his hands glowed with golden light, and then he pulled his fingertips, and a bright golden thread appeared in his hands. Whoosh. Along with the golden thread pulled out by the fingertips, ancient runes suddenly appeared around the body, forming a circle around it. The instant the golden ancient runes appeared, the entire space trembled violently. The cave, which was originally dimly lit by candlelight, was instantly illuminated by golden light, making the stone walls look resplendent. Buzz. At the moment golden runes intensified, more and soon filled the entire space. The previously trembling space at the moment suddenly folds, showing a broken shape. Let the world forget about the mystery guest. There has never been a mystery guest in the world. Li Zi took a deep breath, and after silently reciting the spell, he said the memory to be erased. At the same time, I also have some doubts in my heart. Why Doctor Strange in the original book does not let the world forget about the mysterious guest? Doesn't the world forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? As a result, in the end, I was confused and made mistakes. Let the magic fall into chaos. Li Zi shook his head speechlessly, opened his arms and turned into an entity, immersed in the golden runes. Next second. Buzz. Boom. The gathered magic spells spread out suddenly, filling the entire space in an instant. But at this moment, there were footsteps in the dark corridor leading to the basement, accompanied by the voices of several people talking. Two of them spoke very intensely and eagerly, revealing deep condemnation and displeasure. Isn't it? What a coincidence. In the formation, Li Zi heard that the masters of the voices were Steven and the others. Immediately his complexion turned a little bad. At the same time, due to inner fluctuations, the spell also began to vibrate. Due to the instability of the amnesia spell originally, the caster cannot be disturbed at all, otherwise it is easy to make mistakes. In the original book, a few words from Little Spider-Man Peter directly made Doctor Strange lose control. What's more, now, Li Zi is facing the risk of being caught. But so far he hasn't messed up the spell. The footsteps in the corridor were getting closer. Steven, you can't do that. The reason amnesia spell is considered a banned book is because it is extremely unstable. It may affect reality at any time. It's not that I don't trust your ability. After all, the instability of spells has nothing to do with magician. On the contrary, I believe you can find a better solution. In the corridor, Wong Magician was full of sadness. He had just arrived at Holy Place to chat with Steven, when he heard the other party mention the amnesia spell. As a senior magician of Kamar Taj, I know the situation of the amnesia spell best in my heart. It cannot be easily used by anyone, not even the former Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, has never been used. Don't worry, I'm sure, and besides, I just have a hunch that Peter will come. Steven's arrogant face is full of indifference. His character is like this, things that others think are not okay. He just wants to do it, and it is also the character that made him come to Kamar Taj when he first came. Secretly studied more than half of the books in the entire library. Even the ancient forbidden techniques were not spared. Steven, I advise you not to have any thoughts in the end, otherwise the magic brought by the amnesia spell will make you regret it for the rest of your life. N. The big magician Sterling next to him said in a deep voice, revealing the majesty of an elder between his brows. Both, Peter and I fought side by side in the Great War, and besides, he's just a minor. I can't just sit back and watch, but I won't go to him unless he comes to me. Steven made the final concession. He was arrogant, but he also valued affection, and he couldn't just watch Peter suffer. Seeing that Doctor Strange was determined to do this, Wong and Sterling glanced at each other. Shaking his head, he obviously knew that he couldn't persuade the other party. Steven ignored the movements of the two of them. While talking, he glanced at the entrance of the basement, and suddenly his heart tightened. Wait a minute, why is there a golden light in the basement? How is it possible? This is a holy place and there will be no outsiders. Sterling has a big magician to say the least. His face suddenly turned pale, and then a golden light appeared, supporting the two people around him to rush down. Whoosh! In an instant, the three of them came to the underground hall, and the scene in front of them made them stunned in place. A bright golden light shone on his face in front of him. There were waves of heat in the air. The distorted space is wrinkled and broken. And the person who caused all this is in the golden formation, with endless golden runes surrounding him. Amnesia spell. What are you doing? Seeing this, Sterling Magician was furious. Without any hesitation, the left hand immediately condensed the golden Waishanbi sword. The figure turned into an afterimage, wrapped in golden light, swung the sword of Emperor Waishan and slashed towards the formation. Sterling is a magician, don't interrupt his spellcasting. Steven and Wong beside him didn't have time to stop it. Haven't reached out yet. Whoosh, Sterling's big magician has rushed out. It's not his fault. An outsider sneaked into the Kamar Taj holy place and used the forbidden spell. It would be the same reaction as anyone else. After all, this is a holy place. If there is a slight mistake, Dimension Mephisto may take this opportunity to invade reality at any time. Instantly, the sword of Emperor Waishan has cut through the newly condensed magic circle. A surge of energy capable of distorting reality spewed out immediately. Boom. At the moment, the dim underground hall was shrouded in bright red light, and the incantations circulating in the central magic circle were like a hurricane hovering above the head. A gust of wind suddenly blew up in the space, and the thick dust mist diffused. With the tearing of the formation, a torrent of energy surged out, once causing the space to tremble and neigh, showing a distorted and broken shape. Buzz. Not good, I'm going out of control. In the center of the magic circle, Li Zi's eyebrows revealed solemnity. The amnesia spell, which was about to be completed, is now disturbed by Sterling, and chaos has begun to appear. Especially that sword directly disrupted the typesetting of the mantra. Coupled with Li Zi's own emotional fluctuations, the unstable amnesia spell has gradually lost control. The big magician of Sterling also realized that the situation was not good, and stood there in a daze. Sterling, are you crazy? Stephen regained his senses and stood against the strong wind, condensing a light red seraphim shield with one hand to resist the onslaught of the turbulent current. While shouting loudly, "The amnesia spell is unstable, the caster is disturbed, you know what will happen." Stephen, it seems too late to say this now. Wang magician next to him looked solemn, staring at the center of the hall in a daze. I saw that the vast cosmic energy in the center of the at the moment hall is constantly gushing out and converging into the out-of-control mantras. The mantra hovering sharply above his head, after injecting endless energy, gradually showed a state of expansion. Like a decaying star that may burst at any time. In the center of the formation, Li Zi, who has always been gentle, couldn't help but swear at the moment. He clearly felt that the energy gathered between his hands was expanding more and more, and it became more and more intense, emitting bursts of terrifying aura. Really. Next second. Boom. Dao incantations seemed to reach a certain critical point, suddenly torn and shattered, and then a surging gust of wind swept out. In an instant, the power of the overwhelming spell raged, washing the entire underground hall, setting off a wave of flying sand and rocks, and part of the ancient wall suddenly fell off. The huge momentum caused by the burst of the spell directly blasted the nearest Sterling magician into the air. Wind of Vatum. Seeing this, Stephen hurriedly pushed his hands, his palms glowed red, the airflow in front of him suddenly stagnated, and the Sterling magician in midair also landed steadily. The underground hall, which was originally blustery with strong winds, also returned to calm, and the dust and mist that filled the air gradually began to dissipate. The incantations flying out of the center disappeared through the wall, as if they had never appeared before. Wang looked around to see that the danger was lifted. He took a long breath and put away the seraphim shield, helped Sterling on the ground and said slowly, "It seems that nothing strange happened." Cough. The big magician Sterling glanced at the peaceful hall. He didn't speak but was dazed. Instead, the masked man in a robe in the center of the hall answered his question angrily. If the reality is really changed, mortal eyes won't be able to see it at all. As the great magician of Kamar Taj, I think you should know this. The person who spoke was Li Zi, and his gloomy eyes fell on the two of them. Although the amnesia spell has been completed and the world has forgotten the incident of the mysterious guest, the power of the spell has lost control and has seriously affected reality. Now he can't be sure what has become outside. Sir, we are aware of this. Wrong. Stephen was slowed down when he heard this, remembering that the mysterious man in front of him was an intruder. Immediately, pale yellow bracelets were condensed on both hands, and he said in a deep voice, "Sir, you are the intruder. Now the problem is not on this, you guys better go and check whether the reality is affected." Li Zi felt a little upset when his perfect casting was interrupted. But anger is anger, what he has to do has been completed. No one in the world remembers the mysterious guest except himself. That was when he cast the spell. In order to prevent himself from forgetting the purpose of coming here, he did not let himself forget the mysterious guest. To avoid trouble. As for the destruction of reality, it is better to leave it to the people of Kamar Taj to deal with it. After all, they are also thousands of years old. It's just that right now the Kamar Taj trio don't seem in a hurry to check the reality. I don't know what you changed with the amnesia spell, but anyone who enters the holy place without authorization will be regarded as an enemy. Stephen frowned and said. Indeed, the moment the amnesia spell swelled and exploded, he always felt that he had forgotten something, and he couldn't remember what he wanted the amnesia spell to do. But he clearly remembered that the mysterious man in front of him broke into here and used a spell to make the world forget something. Stephen, don't talk nonsense with him, this guy may be a cult follower of Mephisto. Sterling stood up with a dangling body, as a magician of the older generation. Anyone who breaks into the holy place will not be tolerated. So just finished. His whole body turned into golden light like a sharp sword, and he rushed straight towards the masked man. The power he erupted was so great that the soil under his feet burst when he stepped on the ground. Boom. In an instant, the golden light, wrapped in a strong wind, suddenly appeared beside Li Zi, and a sword of Emperor Weishan carrying golden power slashed down. Old man, it's obviously your fault. Li Zi saw the three of them attacking directly, and he didn't show any mercy. The left hand is covered with magic runes, forming a huge arm. He decisively opens his hand to hold the sword of Emperor Weishan, and then exerts a little force on his wrist. Bang! The giant sword condensed with magical energy shattered. How can it be? Sterling's pupils constricted suddenly, and the Visandi's sword was not as hard as adamantium, but it was also far superior to other substances on the earth. He was actually crushed by the young man in front of him. Whoosh! Kneel down. When he was in a trance, Li Zi shouted angrily and swung his fist. With his big hand blessed with runes, the moment he activated it, a cyclone surged. He punched Sterling's big magician's chest. No matter how quickly the other party reacted and gathered a magic shield to resist, it would be of no avail. He was directly knocked down to the ground, the floor tiles collapsed, and the strong wind once again stirred up dust and mist. The entire underground hall shook violently. Sterling Big Magician. Stephen and Wang were woken up by the piercing wind, and immediately realized that the strength of this intruder far exceeded their expectations. The two looked at each other and shot at the same time. Stephen blasted a bright purple lightning with one hand. Boom. Terrifying lightning strikes where Li Zi is, and endless thunder bursts through the dust and fog, intensifying the circular motion in the underground hall. However, when the dust and mist dissipated, there was no one there. Where are people? Stephen looked around, his eyes froze suddenly, he turned around abruptly and condensed the sword of Emperor Weishan and swung it out. Om. Kai. Bang. Li Zi, who was in front of them before, had unknowingly come behind the two of them, and slashed with a big knife in his left hand. Knife and sword collided, causing strong winds to rage. Hiss. Stephen held the long sword in his hand, his arm was numb from the shock. Li Zi didn't give him any chance to breathe, he raised his hand and swung the knife for the second time. He parried with difficulty. But what followed was continuous slashing, huge amounts of blades were like light pieces of paper, and Li Zi was able to handle them with ease. Every hit is elusive. Stephen struggled even harder, and at the same time marveled at Li Zi's sword skills and strength, which is not what a magician should have at all. Whoosh. It seems that Kamar Taj's swordsmanship is a bit too bad. Li Zi presses every step of the way, never forgetting to tease. Stephen, who had always been proud, gritted his teeth angrily when he heard this, but he couldn't make any forceful counterattack, so he could only keep backing away. Boom. At this moment, a bright purple thunder flashed across and landed on the open space between the two, huge amounts of thunder echoed. Hey two, we seem to be magicians. It was the king, and his left hand gathered purple lightning, interrupting the two of them. Wang, I thought you fainted from fright, so I only acted now. Stephen took the opportunity to retreat, panting and complaining. I thought you could do it. The king walked up to him and conjured up the Seraphim shield. Obviously you overestimated Dr. Strange, let Sorcerer Supreme fight me. Li Zi looked relaxed, it seemed that he had overestimated Dr. Strange earlier. Now his own strength is already above him. Don't talk nonsense, I'll trap him. Stephen was poked at the sore spot, his complexion suddenly turned bad, and scarlet energy glowed when he raised his hand. The turbulent power surged out suddenly, like a tidal wave, forming scarlet vines, scrambling to wrap around Li Zi. Bossat's thunder. The king next to him was no longer hesitation, and his hands condensed bright purple light. However, Li Zi didn't panic when he saw this, a magic wand appeared in his hand, and he shouted, "Your weapon is removed." Whoosh. Then the magic wand suddenly flashed a dazzling red light, directly hitting the sweeping scarlet wave, and the affected wave collapsed in an instant. And this effect spread all the way to Stephen's hands, and the scarlet energy also turned into a faint gleam and dissipated. What? Stephen looked at his hands, shoulders in place. He clearly felt the magical energy on his hands dissipated in an instant. Stephen, are you kidding me? Wang looked at his empty hands, not waiting for him to slow down. A red light on the opposite side also hit his hands. The previously gathered purple energy dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. He removed all our magic. Stephen felt the red light, and his pupils trembled in shock. He had never seen a spell that could dispel other people's magic. The disarming curse really works. Li Zi waved his wand, and his tone was a little surprised. In fact, it was also the first time he used the disarm spell on a magician. The reason for this spell comes from Harry Potter, which can make the opponent's weapons and any items get rid of them, so as to achieve the effect of disarming. And after the magical modification of creating magic, the disarming spell can even disarm the enemy, and the energy that has been accumulated. Let it annihilate and dissipate out of thin air, it is simply abnormal. Who are you? Steven looked dignified, although he didn't use the mirror dimension to deal with Li Zi, but only after a few fights just now. He has already deeply realized how big the gap in strength between himself and the opponent is. With such a powerful magician, there are no more than 2 hands on the earth. How could such a person sneak into the holy place and steal the forbidden art? When you beat me, you won't know. Nothing in the world escapes Kamar Taj's. By the eyes of the magician, I mean the real sorcerer supreme. Li Zi looked at Steven, feeling a little helpless in his heart. Since Kamar Taj lost the Ancient One magician, the deterrent effect on Mephisto has dropped significantly. Many dimensional demons are about to move. After all, whether it is Steven or Wong, compared with Master Ancient One, the difference is not only a star and a half. In fact, Li Zi is looking forward to Doctor Strange growing up. If there is a powerful dimensional Mephisto invasion in the future, at least someone will handle the dirty work. Don't worry, I'll catch you sooner or later. Steven didn't attack anymore, because he knew that with Li Zi's strength, if he was really scared to death, he and Wong would have fallen down long ago. Whatever, I'll leave early when it's late. Li Zi glanced at his watch and found that it was getting late. It will be dawn in a few hours, if the witch gets up halfway and can't find herself. Or seeing a body without a soul, it is estimated that something will happen again. Thinking about it, before he left, he still told, "You too, you'd better go and see if there is any problem outside. If the reality is affected, use the naked eye." Can't see it. Finished. Buzz. The whole person body blur becomes transparent, blending with the dim light. I can't stop it, don't bother. Steven grabbed Wong, who was next to him, and watched the figure disappear. Then he looked at Sterling on the ground not far away. Hurry up and send the magician Sterling to heal his wounds. I guess the injuries are not serious. Wong nodded, turned around and took Sterling away. Steven took a deep look at the dilapidated hall, pondered for a moment and smashed the stone wall engraved with amnesia spells with magic. Then they went upstairs together. On the other side, when Li Zi returned home, it was already early morning. The autumn breeze was blowing and the air was a bit cold, and the witch in the room was still sleeping. He breathed a sigh of relief and went into the bathroom to clean up briefly. Then he fell asleep with the witch in his arms. However, at the same time, in a corner unknown to Li Zi and Steven. Queens, New York, in a dark alley, his brother. At the moment, the space was torn apart suddenly, and a crack in the void flashed past. When the crack closed, a white shadow fell to the ground, and she was as agile as a spider when she landed, jumping up and sticking her limbs to the wall. On the wall, Gwen Stacy pulled off her hood, revealed a heroic pretty face, looked around for a moment and said in doubt, "Where is this?" It wasn't just Gwen who was puzzled. There are cracks popping up all over the country, on the streets, on the roofs, on the suspension bridges. One after another strange figures come to the familiar yet strange city. Autumn is different from other seasons. The bleak autumn wind and the withered and yellow vegetation give people a sad atmosphere. From ancient times to the present, countless poets in China have used autumn to express their inner sorrow, and blended this emotion with paper and pen. But autumn is also a feast for the eyes. The sky was bright this morning. Li Zi went out for a morning run as usual, and the sides of the street were covered with yellow leaves. Vehicles parked on the side of the road are also stained with yellow leaves, full of autumn atmosphere. However, when he got up early and ran in the morning, it was also for the effect of the amnesia spell last night. Amnesia spells work surprisingly well. When I ran in the morning, I met passersby. Because of my close relationship with Wanda, the passersby's eyes were full of fear and disgust. Now they still greet each other as before, and everything is on the right track. Go home. Li Zi just watched the news after taking a shower, and the media didn't mention the mysterious guest again. I can't find it on the internet, and everything seems to have never happened. Is this amnesia spell changing reality, or is it changing people's memories? Li Zi checked everything, and found that he could not find any incidents about the new Chawang mystery guest. Only journalists reported that the supervillain Mysterio appeared on the River Thames in London. After reading these, such an idea could not help but emerge in his mind. Is the amnesia spell really just tampering with memory? Judging from the current changes in reality, the spell obviously directly distorts reality. Created another story about the mystery guest. That's a super villain. No wonder Wong and Sterling warned Steven that this magic is unstable. This is not tampering with memory at all, but distorting reality. Li Zi repeatedly checked the information about Mysterio, and now she is 100% sure that the so-called amnesia spell is actually magic that distorts reality. It's no wonder that it will be regarded as a forbidden technique, and even the reality of the multiverse will be affected. Maybe, I can use it to create more powerful magic. The idea of being at the holy place in the early morning came to mind again. With his current attainments in creating magic, it is natural to improve a forbidden technique, but it may take some time. As for what the improvement will look like, we will have to wait until we practice to know. Create what? Suddenly, the witch's slightly hoarse voice came from behind her. She looked sleepy and rubbed her eyes in a daze. Are you still thinking about the dark book? There is no casual talk. Li Zi was stunned for a moment, and immediately reacted and explained. Li, Stephen said that you can't learn the dark god book. Let's be obedient and stop learning it. Wanda came over and stood on tiptoe vigorously, and touched his head. Lu Yi's clear eyes revealed tenderness. The melancholy of yesterday was completely gone, replaced by joy. The witch is in a good mood, which may have something to do with the massage last night. She is refreshed this morning, her delicate and pretty face is rosy, and her beauty is delicious. Aha! Li Zi naturally also noticed this. He nodded and tried to ask. Do you know about the mysterious guest? Li, do you have a fever? Or do you just practice stupid? Wanda's delicate little hand touched his forehead, and put the other hand on his forehead. It's not hot. We just came back from Germany a few days ago, and we got rid of that liar mystery guest there. It's okay. I'm in a good mood and suddenly think of the mysterious guest. I'll make breakfast first. Li Zi is in a good mood. The witch no longer remembers about the mysterious guest. The amnesia spell last night may affect reality. Everything is perfect. After dealing with the mystery guest, everything was fine again. In the following days, I can feel at ease with the witch in the town again, and live a leisure life without shame or shame. Wanda looked puzzled, turned and went into the bathroom. Today's Li is a bit strange, and always feels like he has forgotten something. But I couldn't think of it even after racking my brains, so I simply didn't want to. Anyway, if it's a big event, Li Zi must remember it better than himself, so there is a high probability that it is a small matter. It doesn't matter. Today's breakfast was very pleasant. Both Li Zi and Wanda were in the same mood, the sun shining through the window on a sunny day. Incomparably comfortable and happy. Had breakfast. Wanda sat on the sofa with her bare feet, hugging her knees and reading the book of the dark god. A pair of slender jade feet were placed on the soft sofa. The toes that look like white lotus root are pink and eye-catching, and they tighten from time to time. We seemed to watch stimulating part, and toes became active, too. Witch, the weather is fine today. Do you want to go to the hot spring? Li Zi finished packing the tableware, walked over and picked up the witch on the sofa, pinched her face and said in a low voice. Is there a hot spring in Zijing town? Wanda put down the book in her hand and asked in doubt. There is a manor in the West End. Do you want to go? Li Zi said slowly. It's also a pleasure to soak in hot springs in autumn. Just the two of us soaking together? Wanda asked with some hesitation. Well, I'm not willing to show you to others. Li Zi nodded. It's not that he has a desire to control. How can a witch with such a good figure show it to others? Alright. He has a little desire to control, and his own woman will never show it to others. I don't want to go. I'm afraid you will do some weird things again. Wanda got more hesitation. She thought it was a single room. The result is a Mandarin duck bath. With Li's personality, if he goes there, he doesn't know what he will do. But I still have some expectations in my heart. What happened? The witch's head is in a mess, and she can't help showing the abdominal muscles she touched last night with the power of Scarlet, and the sexy clavicles Adam's apple. It really makes me want to touch it again. To go or not to go? Li Zi felt that the witch was very entangled, knowing that she must also want to go, so he stretched out his hand and pinched his smooth face. As he spoke, he increased his strength a little. Wanda snorted softly, Don't pinch so hard, I'll just go. But I told you in advance that you can't do those weird things. Anyway, you must wear a swimsuit when you go to the hot springs, so you won't be afraid of Li Zi messing around. However, the innocent witch has not realized that the swimsuit is actually a bonus item. To be precise, it is a super bonus item. What strange thing? Li Zi asked back with a puzzled face. You know it in your heart. If you ask me again, I won't go. Wanda blushed and turned her head away, too lazy to speak. No, I'm going to clean up now. What a wonderful thing to soak in a hot spring with someone you like. How could Li Zi let it go? I don't have a swimsuit. Seeing his excited face, Wanda yelled to stop. It's okay. I've already bought it for you. Li Zi entered the bedroom without looking back. The corners of his mouth were curved like a knife. Hear this. Wanda always felt that nothing good happened. I can't help but think of the clothes I bought in Germany a few days ago, but they haven't arrived yet, and they are more and more embarrassing. Fortunately, the express delivery was delayed, and I bought it in Germany, so it was automatically located in a German store at the time, so the goods did not arrive for a long time. But the style of those clothes kept appearing in the witch's mind, and her cheeks were a little flushed. Li, don't you prepare such clothes for me? Should I refuse, how gorgeous would that scene be? She was really worried that Lee would not be able to bear it. West District of Zijing Town. A manor surrounded by mountains and forests is also the place with the most tourists in the town. Housing is provided here, and many people come here for the hot spring room. Especially after autumn, the weather gradually gets colder. It also makes the manor have a lot of tourists during the holidays, but it is not yet the holidays, so it is not considered the peak season for tourism. The manor has less traffic. Lee Zi and Wanda didn't need to make an appointment in advance, so they stayed in a hot spring room. Why'd I think you're nervous? In the promenade, the two walked one after the other. Lee Zi looked back at Wanda, who lowered his head, playing with his fingers the whole time. Who said I'm nervous? I'm obviously looking forward to it. How can I be nervous? Wanda was nervous and would not admit it. Then are you looking forward to soaking in the hot spring with me, or are you looking forward to other things to do later? Seeing the witch's reaction, Lee Zi smiled slightly. It's my first time to take a hot spring, so I must be looking forward to it. Wanda's nervous head slowed down for half a circle, and then she came to her senses, pinching Lee Zi's waist, her tone full of threats. What other things are you talking about? Could it be some weird thing again? No, I listen to you very much. Lee Zi pulled away the witch's hand and said solemnly. I don't believe it. Every time I see your serious expression, there must be nothing good. Wanda said quietly, her reddish and charming eyes were full of distrust. She pulled the corner of her mouth slightly to reveal her white canine teeth. Who said, when we first met, I was always serious and helped you a lot? Witch, don't be ungrateful. Lee Zi touched his face. Does it really look so prudish? His personality is a gentle and warm man and a good landlord. And specially supported a frustrated witch. Cut. Wanda gave him a blank look. It's definitely prudish. I was deceived by this guy's tenderness and gentleness before. Bang Kai. However, when the two were talking, a door in the front room was suddenly kicked open, and a thick black object could be vaguely seen pushing the door open. The black object disappeared in a flash, and it was taken back into the room in the blink of an eye. What happened? Lee Zi protected the witch behind him, and led her back a few steps, with a solemn look on his brows. He squinted his eyes slightly, turned his back to the witch, and glowed with a faint golden light. He saw the situation in the house clearly through the wall, and his expression suddenly became more dignified. How is it possible? Lee? What's wrong? Wanda sensed the man's mood swings, and poked her head out from behind him to stare at the fallen door ahead. At this time, a person walked out of that room. He was about 1.7 meters tall, with a slightly rough figure, and he had a vicious beard. But when he saw someone outside, he immediately showed a friendly and awkward smile. Haha, my name is Eddie. The pets at home are a little out of control. I'm sorry for smashing the door. Eddie finished speaking with an embarrassed smile on his face, as if something had pulled him off. His body backed away involuntarily. It's okay. I've seen pets smash into the door before. It's a big Tibetan Mastiff. Wanda didn't notice anything unusual, but she was very warm-hearted. What kind of pet is yours? I want to see if it can help you. The power of Scarlet possesses telepathy ability, which can calm the emotions of creatures. Eddie scratched the back of his head with hesitation on his face. Witch, his pet is probably very cruel. Let's go to the hot spring. This buddy can solve it by himself. Lee Zi next to her interrupted the witch's thoughts and pulled her towards the room at the end of the corridor. And waved to Eddie and smiled. After returning to the room, he closed the door immediately. Actually, I think telepathy can calm most pets. Wanda followed him into the room and said slowly. Witch, we're here to play, so don't worry about other people's affairs, okay? Also, you have to go on missions almost every now and then. As your boyfriend, you are almost depressed. Seeing that the witch was still thinking about the question just now, Lee Zi quickly diverted her attention. It's not that I don't trust her, but that the creatures in Eddie's mouth are not pets at all. It's the symbiote, Venom. That's right, the man just now was Eddie Bullock. Host of Symbiote Venom. He didn't belong to this universe, but came from other universes. The appearance of this guy meant that reality was affected. It also means that more people from other universes have come to this reality. It all started with last night's amnesia spell. Lee Zi couldn't even determine who was brought by the amnesia spell, if he insisted on judging according to the original book. In the original book, when Doctor Strange uses spells, his mind is full of content about Spider-Man Peter. Therefore, it also brings people who have been involved with Spider-Man or who have not been involved. Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, Sandman. But Lee Zi was thinking about Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Mystery. Things are a bit messed up. When he recalled what happened last night, he felt a headache. Just don't bring in any weird characters, or you could really mess up the reality. especially if you want Scarlet Witch, who also lacks love. Don't know what to expect. If you don't suffer, I will make it up to you today. Wanda behind her thought that Li Zi was complaining about her recent incident, so she hugged him distress-edly to comfort him. She said softly, Li, how about going to the manor for a while and soaking in the hot spring in the evening? Well, no problem, listen to you. Li Zi nodded. The weather in the morning was a bit muggy, not suitable for hot springs. When the weather is cool in the evening, that is the most comfortable time. Besides, he specially bought a package, and they will spend a lot of time in the hotel tonight, so it is also a good choice to experience other facilities of the manor. Besides, I have lived in Zijing town for so long, and I haven't been to this manor yet. I didn't have my girlfriend with me before, so I came here to eat dog food. Many tourists who come to this place come in pairs. Don't ask why it is a couple, because it is not necessarily a couple or a couple. The natural environment of the manor is very good, with woods, open grass and lakes, because it is the off-season of tourism, there are not many people in the park. Only bits and pieces are a few outsiders, chatting and walking in the warm sunlight. Li Zi and Wanda also bathed in the sun, walking on the path paved with soft stones. Li, do you think that person just now is a bit strange? Wanda asked suddenly. At first, she thought it was okay, but when she passed the door of Eddie's room again just now, the person was gone, but she felt a strange spatial fluctuation. Obviously, it doesn't look like a normal fluctuation, and it should be gone when you look at it again. I don't feel anything, but I feel that you have been under too much pressure recently, which is why you have such thoughts. Li Zi was stunned. This woman was thinking about Eddie again. This is the witch's sixth sense, and you are not a witch, so you won't know this feeling. Wanda admits that there are a lot of things going on recently, and the psychological pressure is a bit heavy, but her sixth sense has never been a problem. That Eddie was somewhat problematic, especially the black object he saw earlier. Looking back carefully, it doesn't seem like a pet, or even a living thing, it's a bit liquid and sticky. Really, but I know all about witches, how do you know that I don't know your heart? As Li Zi spoke, he tightened his arms around the witch's waist, rubbed her soft belly, and smirked. Go away. Don't say such things outside. Wanda blushed and glanced around. She didn't see other passers-by, so she continued to enjoy the caress of her big hands. The warmth made people feel inexplicably comfortable. Then don't mention Eddie anymore, we are here to relax today. Li Zi said quietly. He really didn't want the witch to investigate Eddie. Otherwise, there is a high probability that something will happen. No matter how strong Eddie is in front of the witch, he will be a noob. Facing the power of Scarlet, he may be finished in a few moments. Definitely he doesn't care about Eddie, but cares about the witch discovering that reality has been distorted, and she will definitely not sit idly by. Wanda nodded. In fact, as long as she didn't offend them, she wouldn't bother with Eddie. Come on. Let's go fishing in the lake. Li Zi pulled her and ran towards the lake. Fishing is allowed in the manor, but only fishing, and the fish cannot be taken away. The main reason is that there are so many people fishing all day long. If they could take them away, there would be no fish in the lake. The two didn't know after they left. Under a forest in the distance, a figure slowly came out from behind the big tree, staring at the backs of the two, eyes full of haze and anger. Any one of them here would be shocked, because the person standing under the tree is the mysterious guest Quentin Baker who died in London Bridge. Damn it, why did the Scarlet Witch come to this universe? His tone was gloomy, as if he saw the coldness in his enemy's eyes. However, it's okay, I'll go back and find you. By the lake of the manor, the autumn wind rustled the dead trees. The lake water under the sun is sparkling, and the yellow leaves of some trees float on the lake surface, rippling and floating with the wind. In a beautifully crafted gazebo, Li Zi and Wanda each had a fishing rod, bought some bait, and sat on chairs to fish. Some people say that fishing can test a person's concentration, and it is obviously very effective. Li Zi gets bored after sitting for a while. He belongs to the kind who can sit for an afternoon, but if he sits and stares at something. But I always felt sleepy and bored, and finally started to bow my head to play with my phone. You have no concentration. When Wanda heard what he said, she rolled her eyes at him and couldn't help complaining. Where does a prodigal son have the concentration? That's different. I only do that to you. Do you see me do that to others? The bored Li Zi wanted to tease the witch again, and looked around, only to find that there was no one there. Immediately, those eyes as deep as stars looked at Wanda and said in a deep voice, Witch, let's stab later, okay? Ah. What are you thinking about? Wanda met the man who was as good looking as Jules, but with naked eyes, and immediately moved her butt to the other side. I always feel that this guy has no good intentions. Could it be that he is looking for that kind of excitement in the public? For a moment, The witch suddenly remembered that in that search, she saw that some people liked to go to the wild for excitement. And this guy was talking about the Grove game on the train when he came back from a trip to Europe. Thinking of this, the pretty woman's face turned red and hot. Hey, the witch has restrained your bubbly expression, what's going on in your little head? Seeing the witch's expression, Li Zi immediately realized that she had misunderstood herself again, and knocked her on the head. Then what are you talking about playing? Wanda blushed, feeling a little disappointed because of something. I learned a technique from the Dark God book and wanted to try it. Li Zi expressed his thoughts from the bottom of his heart. He felt that it was a bit too boring, and the highlight of the event was soaking in the hot springs in the evening. You can't just sit here chatting and fishing from morning to afternoon. That would be so boring, being a fun guy, when there were no witches. At this point, he studies and creates magic at home, and immerses himself in the fun of magic every day. Li, we agreed before that you can't study the Dark God book. Wanda frowned, leaned forward and reached out to hold Li Zi's hand, perceiving his soul. Her pretty face was full of worry and displeasure. I'm fine, those are all learned before, since nothing happened, it means Sithorn can't take me away. Li Zi's expression didn't matter, he wasn't so powerful that he was invincible, but he wasn't too weak to be sacrificed by a corrupt ancient god. Then you can't read the following content in the future. Wanda was deeply relieved when she realized that there was nothing abnormal in his soul. She still believed in Dr. Strange Stephen's words, after all, they were Kamar Taj's magicians, and they generally wouldn't talk nonsense in this regard. I promise to be obedient, you put away the fishing line first. With that said, Li Zi put away the fishing rod and put everything aside. Prepare to try the spells of the Dark God book. Anyway, he has already filed a record with the Heavenly Sword Bureau. Even if it is used in public, as long as it does not harm ordinary people, it will not have any impact. As for normal people not being able to see or touch paranormal events, that was the rule many years ago. Now the whole world has experienced flickering, and people know that the world is not as simple as it seems, and after a while, people with super abilities will run around the streets. Such supernatural events have long been not uncommon. Be careful, don't affect other people. Wanda glanced around and saw several people not far away. Although I believe in Li's ability level, I still have to remind you. Trust me. Li Zi looked calm. Black mist gradually gathered in the palms of his hands, and strange magic runes wrapped around his hands. The surrounding air suddenly distorted, as if there was a heat wave raging, showing folds, and the waves of ripples continued to spread outward. Buzz. The lake below seemed to be summoned, and began to rippling and surging, one wave after another layer upon layer. Wanda in the gazebo behind her watched this scene with surprise in her eyes. As the lake water intensified, the surprise in her eyes became more intense, and her charming little cherry mouth opened slightly involuntarily. After a while, she couldn't believe it. Li actually controlled the elements. That's right. With chaos force, she can clearly feel the water molecules in the air surging with Li Zi's manipulation. As a result, the temperature in the air is constantly decreasing. Feel this. The witch's stunned eyes widened slightly again. This spell. Has he already learned it? How long has it been? At this moment, Wanda regretted the previous decision for the first time, and it seemed that she should really persuade Li Zi to go to Kamar Taj to learn magic. Because it's only been 2 or 3 days, and Li Zi has almost finished learning the entire Dark Book. The technique he is using now is the last chapter of the Dark God Book. Whoosh. Just then, Li Zi gently pushed forward with both hands, only to see the lake suddenly exploded, and a column of water straight into the sky was suddenly pulled up. Bang! It rushed straight towards the sky, destroying the thick clouds. Huge amounts of roar resounded through the heaven and earth, reverberating between the heaven and the earth. Countless people around heard the movement, and all looked towards the direction of the lake. When they saw the water column soaring into the sky, their eyes were full of shock. The gift crab, it seems that those 2 people did it. Under the big tree, Eddie looked at the lake, and there were 2 familiar figures in the gazebo. Weren't they the couple he met in the corridor before? Eddie, they seem to be magicians. I think it's the magicians who made us here. Maybe these 2 people can help us get home. A hoarse and low-pitched voice sounded in Eddie's mind. Eddie didn't panic. He knew that it was Venom who was speaking, and replied a little speechlessly. Venom, do you think someone will believe these words from other universes? Come on, they will call the mental hospital to pick us up. Then we eat them. Maybe we can have the memory of these people. Venom said slowly. F***ku, I don't want to die, that guy looks tough. We go to New York, we were there before the crossing, and maybe we can find a way back. Eddie pondered and touched his hungry stomach. Don't be stupid, it's not fun to go back. The world looks good. Go to your Venom, there are still people waiting for me to go back. When Eddie and Venom were chattering, a strong cold wind suddenly swept from the side of the lake. The strong cold wind is like a biting knife. Let the forest sway violently, and leaves fall off in pieces, flying all over the sky with the wind, like the baptism of a storm. What happened? Eddie was facing the strong wind, and the shape of the venom on his face was ready to come out. However, the words on his lips stopped abruptly in the next second. I saw the lake in the distance. The huge water column behind the disintegrating clouds has frozen in midair and turned into an ice and snow castle. Standing high in the sky, it shines like a bright crystal in the sunlight. Well, Eddie, we can't afford to mess with him. Venom faltered. The other side. In the gazebo. Lee Z breathed a sigh of relief, put away his hands and looked at Wanda, who was dazed behind him, with a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. Which, for you. Send it to me. Wanda raised her head, looking at the bright castle above her head. Her watery eyes were touched, and her eyes were full of emotion and surprise. There are few European and American girls who don't like castles. When she was a child, Nan fantasized about living with the prince. Unexpectedly, God let her find it. At the same time. On the other side of Westview Town, in the circle. There is also a pair of watery and charming eyes, also looking at the castle above the lake. She was dressed in a crimson dress, her eyes were full of shock, her pretty fair face, the corners of her mouth trembling slightly. Lee is still alive in this universe? The endless waves of water above the manor lake condensed into a bright and clear ice castle, and the air was filled with strong cold. Looking at the monstrous white cold air, a thin layer of frost formed on the surface of the grass and trees affected. Which? Do you like it? Lee Z looked back at Wanda, who was in a daze, the corners of his mouth curled up, and his eyes as deep as stars revealed anticipation. Nice. Wanda stepped forward and hugged him, raised her head and kissed Lee Z's pretty face. Her eyes full of charm were full of emotion. How did you know that I like castles, Lee Z? I just made what you wanted. Lee Z touched the tip of his nose. This time he really didn't know that witches like castles, but he just thought that girls should be unable to resist. Definitely refers to girls who have been influenced by European and American culture since childhood, because most people have dreamed of a castle and prince since childhood. I love so much. Wanda looked up at the castle in the sky. Lu Yi's eyes were reddish, and his nose was sour. She stretched out her slender hand to pick up Lee Z, and she flew towards the castle in the sky, emitting scarlet light all over her body. In a moment, the two entered the fortress, overlooking the pleasant manor below. Why are you crying? Don't you think the castle is ugly? Still feeling too cold? Lee Z gently wiped away the tears from the corners of the witch's eyes, and felt that her mood fluctuated greatly, probably because she recalled bad memories. It's nice not to have a castle, it's just a reminder that I lived in a war-torn area when I was a kid, before I came to the country. Wanda rubbed the corners of her eyes, and voice was slightly hoarse. When I was suffering from war, I often imagined that there would be a prince who could protect us and take us into the castle. So, isn't it realized now? Lee Z looked at the witch with distressed eyes. Living in a messy environment since childhood, the witch has never felt safe. Only those who have no sense of security will imagine being loved and sheltered. It is always the people who are injured in war and become victims. Thank you, Lee. Wanda took the initiative to hug Lee Z's thick waist, raised her head and touched her soft lips. It took a long time for the two to let go. The witch was full of anger, because the coldness of the castle formed clouds of hot steam, which made her flushed face even more tender. Rendered by the thin white mist, the atmosphere is indescribably romantic. Her eyes were a little blurred, but not for a while. Witch, your mouth was so sticky after crying just now. Lee Z wiped off the water stains at the corner of his mouth, pretending to be disgusted, and the words he said broke the romantic atmosphere. While going, it would be nice to have some for you. When Wanda heard this, she was furious and pushed Lee Z away. I'm just kidding. There's no goo, and you don't care about my goo. Why should I care about yours? With a smirk on Lee Z's face, he hooked the corner of the witch's sexy mouth with his fingers. Ouch, don't tell me that, and don't put your fingers in my mouth. Not to mention those eclectic memories that were brought back to Wanda, they all happened in the bathroom. Now she doesn't want to go into the bathroom anymore. Think about it, there is a word in Washa called it, by the way, touch the scene to make you fall in love. Bah, it's not that she is in love with the scene. It's Lee Z, the guy who always falls in love with that vibe. What are you thinking? Your face looks red. Lee Z squeezed her fragrant and soft cheeks. Go. It's time to have lunch. The set meal I bought has a lot of seafood dishes. Seafood. Wanda was very hungry, and when she heard that she wanted to eat, she put all her wild thoughts behind her. This is an inland place. How can there be seafood? She used to stay inland and hardly ever see seafood. Which, it's 2024 in the 21st century. If you want to eat seafood, let alone king crab, you can eat even sharks. Lee Z paused, and said on the track, advance is money. No wonder, I've been in America for so long, and I've only seen king crabs at Tony's banquet. Wanda nodded, but before the banquet was eaten, it was robbed by others. As she spoke, she took Lee Z to use the scarlet power and flew downward. You Avengers don't get paid? Lee Z asked a big question that he had been wondering for a long time. He remembered that Falcon didn't even have the money to repair the ship at this stage, and even had to go to the bank for a loan, and definitely had the status of an Avenger. Falcon couldn't get a loan, and in the end he had to rely on himself to make ends meet. No, there are only subsidies, which are pitifully small. Wanda shook her head, and then continued, and I'm not actually an Avenger. I haven't received a subsidy for about 6 years. The witch thought about it. Since the split of the Avengers, the entire government wanted people headed by Captain America can't receive subsidies at all. Then she recalled for a while, when Tony was still there, he would provide a lot of help to the Avengers, accommodation and food, and he also invested in the Avengers base. Now no one cares about it. Tony Stark was a really good guy the rest of his life. Lee Z next to it commented. As for Tony Stark in the first half of his life, a playboy arms dealer, among other things, he only sold arms to collect money from it. Giwu is suspicious of vampires, and everyone knows America's behavior. How could the Stark group not know, but just want to make more money and turn a blind eye? Fortunately, Tony turned around in the second half of his life and saved the world with a snap of his fingers. The two returned to the ground. The area around at the moment was already full of tourists, many of whom were amazed at the sight in front of them, filled with emotion in their hearts. A middle-aged man in the crowd came out. His tone was a little eager, but he tried his best to maintain respect. Before you two leave, can you change the lake back, otherwise I can't explain to the boss. Lee Z glanced at the drained lake, and the fish frozen in the water column that spread into the deep space. He said to the middle-aged man, no problem, it will recover in half an hour, and those fish are not dead. Thanks. The middle-aged uncle breathed a sigh of relief. He called to consult just now. One of the two is an Avenger, and the other identity should not be simple. It's not enough to deceive an ordinary person on this kind of thing. Uncle, where is the restaurant? Wanda is already very hungry and hasn't eaten anything since morning. 2. Please follow me. The middle-aged uncle bowed and walked ahead to lead the way. The other side. The mysterious guest who had been hiding there under the big tree looked up at the castle in the deep sky of the lake. His eyes were full of shock. Lee Z is still alive? It seems that she is not my Scarlet Witch. As he spoke, he followed up stealthily, because he is still not sure whether that Wanda is the Scarlet Witch of his own universe. After all, witches are a difficult type of people to deal with. They can always distort reality, and Mysterio has suffered in this regard. This time, it was even directly distorted and traveled to another universe. After he leaves, under another tree, a burly figure was walking back and forth, talking to himself and talking to the air with a tangled expression. Eddie, I think it'll be fun to keep up with them. Venom, they are magicians, they won't help us. The best option now is to go to New York, where we may find a way to go home. Eddie couldn't bear it, the viscous object that kept chattering in his head. I really want to take him out. Eddie, I know what you're thinking. But we're going to eat, I mean, they're going to the restaurant. Although we have no money, we run away when we are full, unless you want me to eat people. I haven't eaten chocolate for a long time. Venom's low and hoarse voice sounded again in his head, but he looked a bit naive, like a child who had nothing to eat. Okay, but you must not mess around. Eddie rubbed his belly, he was hungry too. Originally, one body raised two, and the nutrition needed for a day was several times that of ordinary people. Now I have been walking around for 10 hours without eating anything. He was also worried that he would accidentally lose control and eat people by the side of the road. Eddie, do you think there are chocolates in the hotel? It's really not good. Go find a place where there is no one and pick your head. Venom, shut up. There were two voices, one excited and the other impatient. But there was only one body, running towards the direction of the restaurant. Passers-by seemed to see a mentally ill person, and they all avoided the narration. Only a figure in the crowd stood in place, looking up at the castle in the deep sky all the time, almost being hit and still not moving. Lee, you are still alive. The woman was dressed in a crimson cassock with strange runes embroidered on it, exuding a faint aura that was invisible to the naked eye. People around her will feel chills when they pass by her. Especially her beautiful pretty face, with black around the eye sockets, like a female devil who has practiced kung fu. But at the moment, her eyes were red, the corners of her eyes trembled slightly, and her tone of self-talk was full of grief. If the mysterious guest just now was still here, he would definitely be terrified. Because, this woman is the Scarlet Witch of his universe. The Manor restaurant is located in the center of the entrance gate. Since it was converted into a business facility at the end of the last century, the restaurant not only entertains residents, but also welcomes people from outside to come here to eat. At the moment it was approaching 12 noon, and the empty and cold restaurant was getting more and more crowded. This way please, both of you. The middle-aged uncle brought Li Zi and the two to the table for two by the window. There are other things waiting for me to deal with. I wish you a pleasant lunch, goodbye. Well, thank you. Li Zi nodded and sat down face to face with Wanda. The position was just right to enjoy the beautiful view of the garden outside. He opened the half-covered window, and the refreshing autumn wind was blowing, and then he pushed the order plate forward. What do you want to eat? I don't know the dishes here, please help me order. Wanda flipped through it, and found that they were all unfamiliar. Chalian was a little embarrassed, and pushed the menu back. Actually, I haven't eaten here before, so just order casually. Seeing the distress of the witch, Li Zi ordered a few dishes that seemed to suit her taste. He put down the tablet and said slowly, "It's good now, the waiters don't have to be so tired. In the era of rapid development of technology and black technology, now there is no need for waiters at all, and the whole process of ordering food is online. Anyway, in the restaurant, except for the big waiter serving the food, there is almost no waiter standing by to serve the guests. Unless some high-level restaurants, but the wages are still the same, and some people's wages are even lower than those of the Avengers." Wanda frowned slightly and took a sip of warm water, feeling a little strange. In fact, in 19 years, it has not yet developed to this point. After 5 years of blinking, when I wake up in 2024, I feel that the era has changed. Perhaps in this fast-paced era, the replacement is much faster. You say that, are you not afraid that outsiders will know that the government has mistreated the Avengers? Seeing the witch frowning, Li Zi was obviously dissatisfied with how she was treated. Also, exhaustingly participating in the task. The remuneration in exchange is very little, like Falcon once had to borrow money to survive. Hey stop, your order is all about chocolate. At this time, a quarrel came from a few tables away, breaking Ninghe's restaurant, and many guests around cast strange looks there. The eyes of some of them are full of astonishment and disgust. Li, it's Eddie I met in the corridor earlier. Wanda stuck her head out when she heard the movement, and walked over to the table next to her. Eddie? Li Zi also turned his head to look, and the corner of his mouth could not help but raise a smile. It turned out to be Eddie, who was sitting awkwardly at the position, felt the eyes of the people around him, and waved his hand apologetically. I'm sorry everyone, I'm sick, please forgive me. Eddie, we're not sick, and this is not our world. Why don't we just eat everyone in the restaurant and run away? The voice of Venom rang in his mind again, forcing him to chatter nonstop, especially with the help of Eddie's eyes, seeing so many people around him. Immediately became more excited, Eddie, I'm starving to death. However, when Venom's eyes touched Li Zi, who was a few tables away, the voice stopped abruptly. Venom, are you scared? The magician is also here, why don't you eat people? Eddie also noticed that Li Zi was here, and immediately lowered his voice and began to mock Venom. They mocked each other when they had the opportunity, which is what they do every day. Shush. Eddie, don't talk. Look at the smile on the corner of his mouth, you shouldn't notice anything. The Venom was really scared, he smiled when he saw the magician. Although he is not from the Earth, he has become a qualified Earth symbiont after a long time of studying online. I have learned about the profession of magician. It is a very evil profession. I heard that it can see through people's hearts. That's not right, we can find an opportunity to ask what's going on now. Eddie was not afraid, on the contrary, he thought it was a good thing, but he was worried that no one would believe him. Li, do you notice anything wrong? On the other side, Wanda looked away. No, Li Zi shook his head and looked at Wanda suspiciously. Why do you ask? That man gave me a strange feeling. He seemed to have two personalities, and they were both active. Wanda glanced at Eddie's direction, leaned into Li Zi's ear and continued to whisper. And you see that he was talking to himself just now, but it seems that someone is talking to him. Are you sure you're not mentally ill? Li Zi felt the blue breath of the witch when she spoke, touched her itchy ears, and agreed to glance at Eddie's position. This guy definitely has two personalities in him, because the symbiote venom is hidden in his body. No, Eddie is weird. Wanda shook her head slightly, obviously feeling very strange but unable to explain the problem. Eddie, the two of them are here again. Why don't we go first? The magician doesn't seem to be easy to deal with. Venom felt a little uncomfortable looking over there from time to time. Venom, is this still you? Eddie couldn't believe it, and he was so arrogant that he wanted to eat human venom every day. Are you dumb now? Eddie, someone's coming. At this moment, a waiter came over with a strange expression, handed out a bill, and said politely, "Sir, please settle the bill first. Didn't you check out after eating? Is your restaurant in such a hurry?" Eddie was stunned for a moment. He didn't even think about paying for the meal. "I didn't have a lot of money on me when I crossed before, and disappeared after coming to this world, and now I have no money." "Sorry sir, it means the lobby manager. I'm just here to collect money." The waiter had an apologetic smile on his face. "I want to pay after eating." Eddie lowered his head slightly. Cloudy liquid flashed in his eyes. "Sir, our manager said that if you haven't settled the bill, we can only ask you out." Seeing him faltering for a long time, the waiter's face darkened instantly. "I came here to find trouble for a long time. No wonder a person talking to himself here almost scared away all the guests." "Okay. Rice see." Eddie tried his best to restrain the screaming venom in his body, lowered his head and pretended to touch his pockets, constantly searching for the wallet. Next second, his complexion suddenly changed, black objects around his eyes were about to emerge, and a layer of black liquid had already appeared under his clothes after clenched fists. "Eddie, let me do it. As long as we go fast, no one can catch us. By the way, eat a few people to add to the fun." Boom. Just when Venom was about to take control of Eddie's body, he slapped a hand on the table and brought a bank card. The things on Eddie's face instantly subsided, and he raised his head to look in a daze. "I pay for this table." It was Li Zi, who helped pay the bill by swiping his card. When the waiter saw that someone was paying the bill, he turned around and left without staying too long. "Thanks." Eddie hesitated for a long time and replied, "Don't thank me, thank her." Li Zi pointed at Wanda speechlessly. He didn't want to talk to Eddie at first, but instead stalked the witch. He firmly believed that his sixth sense was absolutely right, and promised to reward him well tonight. Coupled with the venom in Eddie's body just now, it was about to come out. The witch saw the anomaly at a glance, so she asked him to come over and pay the bill to make a rescue, and by the way, to get closer and talk. "Are you both magicians?" Eddie glanced at Wanda and asked, remembering what he saw at the lake before. "I'm kind of a half magician, she's the real magician." Li Zi replied without any concealment. "Eddie, he's so strong that he's not an official magician." Venom's voice sounded in his mind. Obviously he believed Li Zi's words, and began to feel that the world was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. "Don't listen to his nonsense, we are not magicians." Wanda came over and tugged at Li Zi, motioning him to stop talking nonsense. "The real magicians stay in Kamar Taj." "Eddie, let's go back quickly, this world doesn't look very fun." Venom was even more frightened when he heard about it, and he managed to create an ice city with his hands raised. In their eyes, he was not a real magician. Aren't those Kamar Taj magicians even stronger? "Venom, shut up, you're making me unable to think normally." Eddie heard the buzzing in his head, wishing he could take out the venom directly. "Who are you talking to?" Wanda is very curious. She has been perceiving that there are two souls in Eddie's body. Not a split personality. Split personality is a mental illness, and no matter how split it is, there will always be only one soul. And Eddie has two. Obviously two different life forms. "It's just a parasite, it's inside me." As soon as Eddie explained, he heard Venom scolding non-stop in his head, so he resolutely blocked himself and pretended he didn't hear it. Continued. "I have something that you may be interested in. If you don't mind, you can sit at our table directly." Li Zi knew that Eddie was going to talk about the multi-universe, and he was probably worried about going back, so he simply invited him to sit there. Anyway, with the witch's chaos force, she knew it was only a matter of time, so it was better to let Eddie tell her. However, the witch has experienced the mystery guest, so she may not believe the multi-universe mentioned by Eddie. A multi-universe again. Sure enough, it was similar to what Li Zi thought. After listening to Eddie's words, Wanda frowned slightly and her pretty face was a little cold. "That's right, the multi-universe. I didn't believe it before, but now I have come to another parallel universe. The reality makes me believe it." Eddie's tone was full of emotions, and he seemed incoherent, as if he had not recovered from the shock. In fact, he did not slow down. For an ordinary reporter, the cosmic symbiosis was shocking enough. Not to mention from traveling across parallel universes. But Wanda's face was even more gloomy and distrustful, and she looked at Li Zi beside her. "Li, what do you think?" "Maybe it's true, besides, there is no one in the world who is so boring, thinking every day that he wants to let people from all over the world accompany him to perform." Seeing that the witch didn't believe it, Li Zi felt a little helpless. After all, the previous mystery guest could be said to be a real one, and almost deceived the whole world. Even the super agent Nick Fury was deeply involved in it. "You don't believe me? I swear to God, what I just said is not half a lie. Eddie is in a hurry. If no one helps him, Wouldn't he want to stay in this world forever? But there are still people waiting for him to go back. There is someone who can prove whether your words are true or not. He is in New York. If you really have a problem, he will naturally come to you when you get there. He's a magician for this kind of thing, Wanda explained. If Eddie is telling the truth, then Steven should be busy right now. Plum Z touched his nose guilty, as the instigator. He knew this in his heart. Last night's spell must have brought not only Eddie and Venom, but if it was only Eddie and Venom, Doctor Strange would have found him by now. There has been no movement until now, obviously something is troublesome. Besides Eddie and Venom, what else is coming? Go to New York. Eddie muttered. The waiter finally brought up the dishes. All of the dishes were related to chocolate, most of them were desserts, and there were also some sweet and salty dishes. Can you eat it? Lee Z looked at a table of chocolate-colored dishes, smelled the strong smell, and felt a little choking. The parasites in my body like to eat. Just as Eddie finished speaking, a black object suddenly protruded from his chest and hit him hard on the face. F*K. Venom, can you be quiet? It turns out that he is your second personality. I thought it would be something like a soul. When Wanda saw the mass of black liquid, she immediately realized that the second personality she had perceived earlier was really something like a parasite. But judging from perception, it should be an intelligent creature. I have to feed him every day or we'll all die together. Eddie couldn't help complaining, saying that the venom had come out of his chest. Quickly remove food from the body. Eddie, be careful when you leave this world, don't leak the venom. Seeing the venom shrinking back, Lee Z reminded. In the original book, before Eddie and Venom left, a bit of slime was omitted, which directly led to the birth of a supervillain. I don't know if it is a bug of Venom. The offspring of Venom, that generation is stronger than the previous generation. First, the son beats the grandfather, and later in the manga, it becomes the grandson who beats his father and grandfather together. To be honest, the ability in this area is indeed enviable. Eddie nodded crazily. He has been hungry for more than 10 hours, and now he is eating food and has no mind to care about other things. Even if it is all chocolate flavor, he still eats it hungrily. After a while, a table of chocolate-colored dishes was scraped clean. All the people around cast strange glances. Lee Z and Wanda, who had just finished half a bowl of rice on the opposite side, were dumbfounded. The former knew Eddie's appetite, but the impact brought by the scene was a bit too big. Sure enough, it is not a good thing to have a symbiont in the body, not to mention the existence of a symbiont, which will gradually cause the body's various organs to fail. When she was a child, Lee Z fantasized about owning a Venom battlesuit. Now he no longer has this idea. You too. See you again when I have a chance, and I plan to leave for New York tonight. Eddie didn't care about the eyes around him at all, wiped the oil stains on his mouth with a napkin, got up and put on his coat. After saying hello, he walked out the door without looking back. Lee, I kind of believe he's from the multi-universe. Wanda looked at the piles of bowls and chopsticks on the table, and licked her lips with her tender tongue. Don't think so much, hurry up and go back to take a nap. Seeing that Eddie had left, Lee Z breathed a sigh of relief. With one person from the multi-universe around, that's a ticking time bomb. Who knows what will happen? Besides, he wasn't even sure if Eddie was the Eddie he knew. Or Eddie in countless other universes. Lee Z glanced at Eddie, who disappeared at the gate, and thought to himself. It seems that I have to find some time to see how Steven and the others have solved it. Finished? I'll go to the front desk to check out, you wait here for me. Lee Z saw that the food was about the same, and got up to go to pay the bill. Wanda nodded. The restaurant's reception and dining area are separated by a background wall. Lee Z strode to the reception. At the moment, it's already a little faster, and it's the time when there is the most traffic at noon. There were a lot of people crowded at the front desk, and it was hard to get him. Table 18. Thanks. Lee Z took out the card and paid the bill, turned around with his head down, and was about to go back. At this time, a crimson figure appeared in front of him, which made him stop, and his expression was startled. Female answer. Why did you come out? When did you change your clothes? He froze in place, because the beautiful figure standing in front of him was Wanda. However, the at the moment witch put on a crimson cassock, and the enchanting costume highlighted her perfect figure. Never seen her in. Witches usually wear brighter clothes. And this one is dark red, revealing a weird and gloomy look. Witch. Where did you get your new clothes? Lee Z looked at Wanda in front of her, wearing a crimson cassock, the dark red part revealing a gloomy and strange appearance. And the at the moment witch's face was as cold as this dress, her lips were darkened slightly, and her expression was hard to figure out. I just changed it. Does it look good? Wanda's voice trembled a little, her eyes showed sadness and fear, her fingertips trembled slightly and she waved her hand. The original clothes changed back to the style of the manor, wearing bright casual clothes. The image of the whole person suddenly looked much brighter. She was a little nervous, and said slowly, this one looks better. Li Zi squinted slightly. He always felt that something was wrong. Scanning the witch's whole body, she didn't find any abnormalities. Apart from the slightly cold temperament, there was no difference in the familiar breath. But I always feel that the Wanda in front of me is not right. Neither look good. Wanda felt his unscrupulous gaze, not as shy as before, but enjoyed the baptism of his gaze. But seeing that he didn't speak for a long time, his tone was tense and slightly trembling. Li? Everything looks good, as long as it's what you wear. Li Zi came back to his senses, and the sun took her hand. Did not expect this pull. Wanda on the opposite side directly fell into his arms, hugged him tightly with both hands, and buried her head in her chest. The corners of her Lu Yi like eyes squeezed water droplets like dark clouds, which burst under the violent shaking and flowed down uncontrollably. Witch. What's the matter? Li Zi was a little at a loss, so she hugged the warm nephrite in her arms, touched the witch's soft cheeks, and touched the tears with her fingertips. He was astonished to feel that the witch's mood swings were very strong, and there was a kind of heart-piercing pain, which made people feel extremely distressed. Hey, don't cry, you have something to tell me. Kiss me. The soft witch in her arms raised her neck slightly, her fair face was stained with tears, her charming red eyes looked pitiful and watery. Like an injured jungle fawn, or like a child who can't find a home. Eyes like lakes of clean water, full of loneliness and pain. People can't help but cherish it. At this, Li Zi's eyes fell on the witch's tender red lips, and she took a deep breath as she swept around. There are all people around. Why does the witch suddenly make such a request with such a low face? Is it enlightened? Moreover, why did she cry suddenly? She didn't expose her own affairs, and she didn't do anything to feel sorry for her. In addition, I don't remember, what else can stimulate the witch? If only there were. Only when I die, can I be so sad. Li Zi is not narcissistic, he can perceive the witch's mind, and there seems to be some kind of thread connecting and intersecting between the two. Heart to heart. He knows his position in the witch's heart, and he also knows the other party's position in his heart. Wanda couldn't wait, she hadn't been in contact with Li for a long time. How long? She doesn't remember. All she knows is that she has been practicing the Dark God book for so long, justified Li Zi. Gentlemen, here's your bill for table 18. A voice interrupted the two, and it was the front desk lady who ran over with the bill. But as soon as he came over, he met Wanda's gloomy gaze, like a demon in purgatory, which made people tremble all over, and an extreme coldness rushed straight to the top of his head. The people around seemed to have sensed that the air temperature had dropped, and they all moved around to avoid it. First. Sir, your bill. The waiter handed out the order tremblingly. Thanks. Li Zi took the bill, rubbed the witch in his arms and said softly, Witch, you look so sad, shall we go back to the room first? I'm going to the bathroom, you go to the seat and wait for me. Disappointment flashed across Wanda's eyes, and then she noticed something, left a word and turned and ran towards the bathroom. Strange. What happened to the witch? Li Zi felt even more weird, but he had already perceived the witch's mind just now, and he was sure that it was definitely Wanda. It is also the witch who loves her deeply, but there is an indescribable strangeness. As for exploring memory, he didn't do that, because without the witch's consent, it was very disrespectful to pry into her memory without permission. Witches will not pry into their own memories without authorization. Forget it. Ask later. Li Zi took a long breath and touched his pocket. Where's the phone? It fell on the chair. It suddenly occurred to him that he didn't seem to have taken a lot of things. Although the restaurant's security was in place, he still hurried over. After all, no matter where, there is no shortage of thieves. What's more, this is America. Even if it is in the countryside, it is uneasy, and this has become a stereotype of American people. However, when Li Zi ran to table number 18, his expression suddenly became solemn, and his whole scalp felt numb, as if countless electric currents had passed by. Li. Why did you take so long? Wanda leaned back on the chair, rubbed her eyes, like a sleepy kitten. I'm so sleepy and want to sleep, can you carry me there? Witch. Didn't you go to the bathroom? Li Zi took a deep breath, walked up to the witch and asked in a deep voice. No. I have been staying in the position all the time, you must be confused, or you recognize other women as me. When Wanda finished speaking, her tone was full of jealousy. No. Maybe that's you too. Li Zi swallowed, and an absurd idea appeared in his mind, and at the same time, the absurd idea is also reality. Because if the woman just now is not Wanda in front of her. So, she is Wanda from another universe. But judging from her words and deeds, she is almost exactly the same as her own Wanda. There is not even any difference in heart and emotion. What's the meaning? Wanda felt the man's heavy emotions and his solemn expression, and gradually realized that something really happened. There are very few things that can make Lee show such an expression. Go back to the room first, and I'll talk to you later. Lee Z looked around and made sure there was nothing unusual, picked up the witch on the chair and ran out of the gate. The movement was so fast that the witch didn't even react. Lee, what the hell happened? And you used my perfume. Why is there a faint fragrance? It smells so good. Wanda buried her head in his arms and sniffed the faint fragrance. That is my usual perfume, but it is useless today. Because when going out, Lee Z said that whether she uses perfume or not, it smells very comfortable, and it is completely unnecessary. But this hateful man secretly used it himself. Shush, don't talk yet, go to the room and explain to you. Lee Z ran towards the housing area with the witch in his arms and disappeared into the restaurant. After they leave, a crimson figure slowly walked out of the crowd. Her eyes were as cold as ice, but she was filled with grief. It was as if no one saw her around, and even passed through her blurred body. Standing in the bustling crowd, like a lonely ship on the sea, she said slowly for a long time, Lee, you are mine. No one can stop me from getting you. The other side. Sweet. Boom. Lee Z went back to the suite with the witch in his arms, and slammed the door shut before releasing the witch in his arms. Lee, what's the matter? Tell me quickly. Wanda saw that his mood swings were so intense, and she was a little anxious. Witch, what Eddie said is correct, he really came from another universe, and now he is from another universe. There are still many outsiders who have come to this reality. Lee Z pulled the witch to sit on the soft bed, and explained with a serious expression. Did you just see me from another universe when you went to check out? Wanda is not stupid. Upon hearing these words, she immediately connected with Lee Z's previous reactions in those strange words. Well, I saw another you. Lee Z took a deep breath and fell down on the big soft bed, recalling the witch he met in the restaurant. She was crying very sad, and I have feelings for myself in my heart. That means, another universe also exists itself. However, some accident may have happened later, leading to the death of the self in that universe, which made that Wanda so heart-piercingly sad. So you didn't recognize me, did you? Wanda's faint eyes fell on the man, and her willow eyebrows raised slightly, which meant that she was in a bad mood. Did you still hug her? Seeing that the man didn't answer, she asked again without moving. As she said that, she stepped forward to sniff, and a faint fragrance hit her nostrils, which made the witch feel sore. It's the perfume I use. You really hugged her. Wanda looked aggrieved, having been together for so long. This is the first time for Lee Z to meet other women, not to mention. That woman is still me. Hug, it's because you look so much alike. I didn't realize it at first, but later I realized something was wrong, so I ran back without taking you. Lee Z got up and hugged the witch, pinched her face, and comforted her in a gentle tone. My heart is yours, not hers. I won't lose weight if I hug her. But now there are two me in this world, and the other I must be thinking of robbing you, otherwise she won't come to you. Wanda leaned on his shoulder, her brows full of worry. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you are also Scarlet Witch. She knows one thing best in her heart, she will definitely not let Lee Z go to others, because Lee Z can only be enjoyed by herself alone. I have felt her heart, she has a kind of heart-piercing sadness. What accident may have happened in the universe she lives in? Lee Z pondered how to deal with Wanda from the multi-universe next. Could it be? Wanda was slightly taken aback when she heard this, and wanted to say something but couldn't. It's okay, you say. Lee Z motioned her to continue, as if she had already guessed what the witch was going to say. You in another universe may have passed away unexpectedly, otherwise, that me would not have become like this. Wanda hesitated to speak. What's on your mind? Lee Z was not surprised, on the contrary, he enjoyed this sentence very much. Definitely not enjoying another one's own death. It is to enjoy his position in the heart of the witch. Nonsense, definitely the truth. Wanda rolled his eyes at him speechlessly, expressing her love without hesitation. I'm thinking in the same place. As she spoke, her pretty face gradually became worried, and she stretched out her hand to hold Lee Z tightly. Didn't you ask her? What happened to you in that universe? Did not ask. Lee Z frowned slightly, and squeezed the witch's pink face with her big empty hand. What are you thinking about, witch? What happens in every universe is different, and that universe. My me is not my real me. The Lee Z in that universe doesn't have cheats, but he has cheats. How can it still die if there is a plug-in? Don't pinch, it hurts. Wanda turned her face away, opened her small canine teeth and bit the big hand. But he was pinched by the snow-white chin. Don't bite, you have such thoughts. Don't think about how to drive your rival away, or you will lose me. Li Zi was not joking, he had felt the heart of that witch before, especially towards himself. This reminded him of how in the original book, the witch went to other universes to kill in order to find the imaginary child. I don't know what this Wanda will do. She didn't meet me directly, which means she fears me. Wanda looked distressed. She had thought about who her rival in love would be. What kind of opponent is that in the end, the rival in love is actually himself. Wanda breathed a sigh of relief. How about we go to Steven, he must have a way to send that witch home. Now? Li Zi glanced at the date on the phone. He will not be able to leave Westview Town until 12 o'clock tonight. Because I went out to the hiding place once before, the cooldown period has not yet passed. Let me check the nearest train ticket. Wanda quickly turned on her phone, rummaged through the app, and raised her head for a moment. There is only one flight at 12:30 tonight. Then go at 12:30 tonight. Li Zi glanced at the time. In fact, he is not afraid of Wanda from other universes. Instead, he was worried that his witch would get hurt. It's your own, not another. After all, he knew how powerful a witch would be if she went crazy. Chaos Force is powerful enough to distort reality, and the more intense the host's mood swings, the greater the power of Chaos Force. Li, let's not stay here and go home first, shall we? Wanda tugged at him, begging in her tone. Because she also knew from the bottom of her heart how terrible it would be if myself went crazy, and she was worried that she would not be able to stop myself from attacking. Back in the community apartment, Wanda can use the narrow space with few people to create a protective cover, which can better protect Li Zi. There are many people in the manor. If there is a real fight, many people will definitely be injured. Li Zi nodded in agreement. Now the hot spring benefits can only be put aside. He also wanted to go back, so that he could better protect the witch. Back to the community apartment. The two immediately tightened the doors and windows tacitly, and the witch sealed the doors and windows with Chaos Force, so that not a single mosquito could fly in. Li Zi sneakily added another seal to the seal. Finish these. They just hugged and took a nap together. I felt that there was no accident until the afternoon, and no one came to look for someone, and it was the same after dinner until late at night. The witches I met at the manor earlier seemed to have disappeared. Li, the train is coming soon, let's go to the station first. Wanda had already packed her luggage and came to Li Zi. Okay. Li Zi pondered for a while, but the teleportation magic in the Dark God book. Good. Wanda nodded. Teleportation magic cannot be teleported too far. But it is still possible to go directly to the station. Thinking. The witch decisively used teleportation magic. A scarlet light enveloped the two of them, and then took them away together and disappeared in place. In a blink, they have come to the station. However, before he could stand still, a familiar and indifferent voice came from the shop. Li, where are you going with her? In the early morning, the station hall in Zijing Town was a bit cold, and there were some people lying on the seats in the waiting hall, waiting drowsily for the train to arrive at the station. The flight attendants who were sitting on the chairs and playing with their mobile phones all stood up one after another when they saw that the train was approaching the station. In a corner of the station hall, with scarlet light flickering, two figures carrying suitcases slowly emerged. Li, I used this magic for the first time, and it succeeded. Wanda looked around, with a happy smile on the corner of her mouth, revealing her small snow-white canine teeth. That's why I said that witches have extraordinary abilities. Li Zi patted her head, picked up the suitcase and said in a deep voice, the bus is coming in soon, let's go first. Wanda glanced at the time. She could get in the car in a few minutes, keep her Li away from that imposter, and she must be sent back by Steven when the time comes. The witch clenched her fists and swore secretly, and then she froze suddenly when she was holding Ji's hand. Li Zi next to him seemed to have noticed something strange, and also stopped in his tracks. Then I heard a familiar and indifferent voice behind me. Li, where are you going with her? This familiar voice made Wanda's eyelashes tremble slightly, and Shuling's eyes showed shock, and she subconsciously clung to Li Zi's people. She took a deep breath and turned around, her reddish pupils suddenly constricted, her voice trembling slightly. She really looks exactly like me. The crimson shadow standing behind her was exactly the Wanda I met at the manor at noon today, but she didn't wear the dark red and gloomy cassock. Instead, she changed into casual clothes, which set off her beautiful figure curve. Hello. I didn't expect us to meet so soon. Wanda on the opposite side greeted with a smile, but her cold eyes and cold tone made people feel chills. Unlike the witch in this reality, perhaps she has experienced too much misery. Her temperament is as cold as frost. She is like a snow lotus when she is not talking, and she is not contaminated by dust. Who wants to see you? The witch met the cold gaze of the counterfeit, leaned against Li Zi, and quietly tugged at the man's clothes from behind. "Stay back and let me talk to her." Li Zi next to him was not surprised, he had already guessed that another Wanda would definitely come. However, the fact that the other party didn't directly rob him made him a little surprised. "Before that, I had already made preparations to deal with the fake Wanda. Because he is not sure what stage Wanda in front of him has cultivated in magic power. After all, just judging from the original Wanda who is looking for a child, within a few months, it has become infinitely close to the existence of a single universe. Then the strength of Wanda in front of him is definitely not weak, and even stronger. As for why she didn't just go out and grab someone, what is she afraid of?" Thinking of Li Zi taking half a step forward, looking at the woman carved out of the same mold as her own witch, she always felt weird in her heart, took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "What are you doing here? In fact, you know in your heart that I don't belong to you, and I'm not that Li Zi. You are my Li Zi, otherwise you wouldn't hug me affectionately in the manner." Wanda on the opposite side said casually, "Li, you still hug affectionately." The witch behind her was sour in her heart, she just hugged her and hugged her affectionately. She had already imagined that scene, and the two must still be looking at each other affectionately. Thinking of this, the witch had the urge to bite. "Witch, she's cheating on you." Li Zi knocked on the witch's head, and then looked at the fake Wanda. The contrast is really big. Compared with the glamorous fake Wanda, her own witch is simply a gentle kitten, baring her teeth all day long to bite people. If you put your own witch in the workplace, there is a high probability that she will be played to death by this sophisticated witch. It seems that what a person experiences really affects a person's character. Even affect the personality. "Li, can you stay away from her?" Wanda on the opposite side saw the intimate behavior of the two, her eyes flickered with a dangerous scarlet light, and her tone made people even more confused. It was obviously a question, but it was full of threats. "Please figure it out, he is mine." When the witch heard these words, her expression suddenly became a little cold, and she pulled two Jitu behind her. Like a cat protecting food, the open hands gradually gather scarlet light, exuding terrifying scarlet power, and a strong breath surges. As the witch's long hair fluttered, those watery eyes glowed scarlet, full of enchantment. "He is yours? But can you really protect him? Or do you want him to die in the future, and die tragically in your king's hands?" Wanda on the opposite side gradually became emotional, as if recalling bad memories, her eyes were already moist and red as she spoke. I will protect him." The witch definitely knew what the other was referring to, Li Zi's death. When she heard this sentence, her heart also tightened. Although Li Zi said that in a multi-universe, things that happen in each universe are different, but things with the same probability may happen in so many universes. So something may happen to her Li Zi. You can't do it, and I can't do it before. It's better to give him to me. Wanda on the opposite side looked red and took a step forward indifferently. "Don't come here." Seeing her approaching, the witch suddenly felt a sense of coercion. Pretty face suddenly tensed up. "Witch, calm down." Li Zi felt the two crimson forces spreading in the space, and immediately realized that one force was overwhelmed. "Obviously that is the scarlet power of my own witch. Why did you tell me to calm down instead of her?" The witch was a little bit aggrieved and puzzled. Li was actually defending another witch. "She is here to snatch my man, you still let me calm down." "Don't worry, if she really wants to rob someone now, I've already been taken away by her." Seeing her aggrieved face, Li Zi quickly explained. "Li, you are really smart, you can go with her today, but you have to promise me one thing." On the opposite side, Wanda's cold eyes fell on Li Zi, and gradually became soft and affectionate. The familiar face in front of her made her a little suffocated. When she saw Li Zi at noon today, she had been thinking about rushing to take it for herself all the time. But for the following things, she had no choice but to suppress the emotions in her heart and try her best to restrain her desire for Li Zi. "What's up?" The witch stared at her vigilantly, always thinking that nothing good would happen. Because no one in the world knows yourself better than yourself. She knew in her heart that if it were her, she would definitely not watch her Li Zi go with another person. Even if that person is yourself. What is she plotting? "Li, you promised me the kiss in the manor, but you haven't given it to me yet." Wanda on the opposite side ignored myself, looked at Li Zi and said softly, "There are few people here now, can you give it to me?" Hiss. Cough cough cough. Li Zi took a breath, and from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the witch's little white hand, which was already pinching her waist fiercely. Those scarlet and charming eyes were full of chill. It seems to be saying, "Good G, you really stole someone outside." He coughed quickly, "Sorry, absolutely not, I can't do it." After speaking, the little hand around his waist was released. Then if she's not here, can you do it? Wanda on the opposite side smiled lightly and asked casually. What do you mean by that? The witch's eyes narrowed slightly, and a hint of danger flashed across. Sorry or not. Li Zi took the witch's hand and took a few steps back. Be ready to keep the witch safe at all times. Thanks. But Wanda on the opposite side replied unexpectedly. Her eyes were slightly red, and Lu Yi's eyes welled up with tears. He took a deep breath and said slowly, You are my Li, because you will never betray the witch. Just now she perceived that Li Zi didn't lie at all, and he didn't have the slightest hesitation. He said this very firmly, without any wavering. She has felt it in her Li Zi countless times before, and now she feels it in Li Zi again, and she feels more certain in her heart. This is the Li Zi I want to find. Thinking of Wanda wiping away the mist in front of her eyes, she slowly said, Li, don't worry, I will be able to take you home soon. Finished. Her whole body turned into a cloud of scarlet mist and dissipated, leaving only a few yellow leaves on the ground, as if no one had ever appeared. Only Li Zi was left standing in place. She still wanted you, but she just left. The witch Wanda stared blankly at the yellow leaves on the ground, and hugged Li Zi beside her. She could feel how deep her love for Li Zi was in her heart, and the sadness in her heart was extremely deep. Maybe only you can empathize with yourself, and only you can understand that feeling. Don't worry, I will always be yours, no one can take me away. Li Zi squeezed the witch's fair and tender face comfortingly, then leaned over to pick up a few yellow leaves on the ground. Some of the withered leaves shattered when touched. Exudes a rotten smell, it seems to be corroded. Li Zi crushed the leaves with a complicated expression, she is so knowledgeable. There was a subtle scarlet aura in that leaf, and that aura was so powerful that it could corrode everything. Obviously, the strength of the fake Wanda is far stronger than he imagined. But they are all so powerful. Why is she still holding back? Suddenly, an answer appeared in Li Zi's mind. At the same time, it also made him fall into contemplation. Li, what's the matter? Wanda next to him saw Li Zi looking at the dead leaves silently, pulled him and asked in doubt. It's nothing, I just feel that she is very strong, and it seems that she has worked very hard to cultivate the dark divine book. Li Zi threw away the dead leaf in his hand, and it fell to the ground and turned into powder. I'm also studying the dark god book tomorrow, so I'm working hard. Wanda retorted stubbornly, and at the same time, her eyes dimmed slightly, and she whispered softly. Li, don't worry, no matter what happens in the future, I will not let you get hurt. Stupid. How can a woman say such a thing to a man, and if you say that, are you secretly cursing me? Seeing the worried look on the witch's face, Li Zi couldn't help pinching her face with his big hand, knowing that she was thinking about the multi-universe again. After all, he was gone from another universe. It's just that it has half a dime to do with him. But he said so, and he could hear such words, and his heart was still warm. As for protection, let him protect the witch. I'm a witch, if I curse you, will we still stand together? Wanda gave him a blank stare. The guy wasn't worried at all. He always looks relaxed and calm, as if what happens around him has nothing to do with him. Let's go. The bus has arrived. With a relaxed smile on her lips, Li Zi walked towards the security check with 2 suitcases. Wait for me. Wanda hurriedly chased after her with strides. The two passed the security check, one tall and one short, one behind the other. The train came into the station with the humming sound. Scattered passengers got on the train, and those who got off the train got off the train. After a while, under the stars in the night sky, the train set off again and sank into the quiet woods along the track, and the humming sound also dissipated. I didn't realize that Zijing town is so beautiful at night without. In the sleeper car, Wanda and Li Zi huddled together on the same bed. The witch opened the curtains, lay down just enough to see the starry sky passing by outside. That's why we rarely go out at night. Li Zi looked at the cloudless deep sky through the square window, feeling inexplicably comfortable, and his slightly frowned brows relaxed. None of us seem to have the habit of nightlife. Suddenly remembered that when we first came here, Pete and I had no money and no place to live, so we just lay on the grass with paper shells and looked at the starry sky at night. Wanda's eyes gradually blurred in her arms. She was a little drowsy. Her voice became much quieter. She licked her red lips with the tip of her pink tongue. Many times I just lie down like this, doing nothing, but there is something unspeakable. Li Zi didn't answer, because the witch's voice, hypnotic ability, is so effective, especially when whispering, it reveals a seductive magnetic. After a while, he hugged the fragrant witch and closed his eyes in a daze. And the witch murmured a few words, and gradually fell asleep. A few hours later, outside the train station in Manhattan, New York. The sky is bright, and the cold wind blows the empty and dark streets in the early morning, filled with fog visible to the naked eye. It's cold. Wanda tightened the windbreaker on her body, curled up and squeezed towards the tall figure beside her. Why don't you go to the coffee shop for a drink first, and then go to Steven? I guess he hasn't woken up at this point. Lee Z hugged the witch with one arm, took out his phone and checked that it was only past 6 o'clock, and many people in Manhattan were still asleep. Steven must have not slept, and now that the multi-universe distorts reality, it is impossible for him to sleep, and you can't delay your affairs. Wanda paused, and said quietly, that imposter may come to you at any time, I have a hunch she will come soon. Not the witch, she admitted that she was no match for the imposter at all. If he really came to rob people, he would have to find a place to wipe his tears by then. Buzz. At this time, golden sparks appeared out of thin air in the open space in front of the two of them, making the dark street glow with a layer of light gold, and the circle drawn by the sparks presented a circular dimension portal. Wanda's right, I'm still up and busy as hell. A familiar and very accented voice came out. It was the guardian magician of Holy Place in New York, Dr. Strange Steven. There were faint dark circles on his face, tiredness between his brows. He stretched out his hand to signal the two to enter the portal. Two, please follow me. The two passed through the dimension door without hesitation, and came to a dark underground hall, where the environment revealed a simple atmosphere everywhere. This is a good place, warm in winter and cool in summer, suitable for sleeping. Lee Z pretended to be surprised, but in fact, he recognized at a glance that it was the underground hall he had been to before. Now it has been refurbished, many places and damaged walls have been restored, but the quaint atmosphere is still preserved. Isn't this place a long history? Wanda looked around, eyes full of emotion. What did you come to see me for? Steven didn't answer, and asked a little tiredly about the purpose of the two. Listening to the tone seems to have been psychologically prepared. Steven, the same problem you're having now, we've encountered Scarlet Witch from another universe. Wanda replied without any hesitation. Wanda from another universe? Steven, who was tired before, became interested in an instant, looked at Lee Z meaningfully, and said with a joking smile, brother, you are blessed. Did she come to see you in person? Wanda's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly, revealing a hint of danger. I regard you as a friend, are you trying to stab me in the back? Ahem, don't talk nonsense. I refused all requests from counterfeit goods. Lee Z coughed twice, held the witch's clenched fist, and then said nonsense that the witch next to him wanted to beat someone, but he couldn't stop it. Just kidding. I'm actually solving the problem of multi-universe visitors, but after yesterday's work, I'm the result of my labor. I found that the number is far more than I thought. Steven said as he waved his hands to signal to follow, and then walked towards the depths of the hall. The surrounding candles were lit one after another, illuminating the dim space. In the depths are grooves on the wall, 3 of which have been sealed by energy shields, each of which holds figures of different file sizes. These 3 are from other universes too. Wanda glanced over, and finally landed on the figure on the left. Eddie? The person locked in the space on the left is Eddie, who is lying on the ground and sleeping soundly, with a blanket covering his body. It seemed that he heard someone shouting, turned over and covered his head and continued to sleep. You know each other. Remember, when Eddie first came here, he kept saying that 2 magicians told him to come here. It seems that he was referring to you. Steven remembered that Eddie was caught earlier, and to be precise, this guy threw himself into the trap. It's actually much easier to deliver it to the door by yourself than the other ones hiding in the dark. I suggested he come to you yesterday, but why did you lock him up? Wanda was a little embarrassed. After all, he recommended the person. Don't worry, I'm afraid that he will run away, and I will send him back together when he is locked up. Steven conjured up 3 cups of hot coffee, put them on the table, and took a sip of one himself. Do you want coffee? Thanks. Lee Z picked up a cup to warm his hands, and then looked at the 2 multi-universe visitors next to him, one with his back turned and couldn't see clearly. The last one was a lizard, which he recognized as Dr. Lizard with a broken arm, one of the villains in the Generation Spider-Man. Dr. Lizard at the moment also fell into a deep sleep. It seems that the first generation of Spider-Man in the second generation may also come. Lee Z thought about it. The situation seemed to be more complicated than he imagined. You tell me about the counterfeit Wanda. How strong is she? At this time Steven finished his coffee, put down the cup in his hand and asked about Scarlet Witch. Actually, the situation is very simple. Wanda did not hide the general situation, but said it in detail. She didn't take Lee Z directly. Steven frowned slightly after hearing this, and continued to ask. What did she say before she left? She said she was going to take me home. Lee Z next to him put down his glass, and his tone was a little dignified. Take you home? Steven held his chin in thought for a moment, his expression suddenly changed. He raised his head to look at the two and said in a deep voice, "She might want to bring Li Zi back to her own universe." Then why didn't she capture Li Zi first? Wanda didn't turn her head around, and thought about it from side to side without understanding what myself was thinking. Before Steven could answer, Li Zi next to him said, "Because she has no choice, the only place in the world that can return to the original universe is Kamar Taj. She's looking for Doctor Strange, and we happen to be here, so she didn't do anything directly." "Li, you mean the counterfeit is looking for Doctor Strange?" There was a chill behind Wanda's back, but she didn't think of this. Her previous attention was on Li Zi, and she didn't think of Steven. "But now that I think about it, everything seems reasonable. I wants to take Li Zi out of this universe, and the only one who can do it is Kamar Taj. Kamar Taj, which has been established for thousands of years, has a rich heritage and countless ancient forbidden techniques. There must be a way to go back. I guessed it, she wants to find Kamar Taj from my wife. Because the location that caused the reality distortion is in the holy place in New York, and she knows that, so she will do it." Doctor Strange Steven remembered what happened the night before. That night, he and Wong went to explore various holy places non-stop. At first, no abnormalities were found. It was not until yesterday morning, when the fluctuations of reality distortion began to intensify, that they discovered that outsiders had entered the reality. "You guys did it?" Wanda raised her eyebrows slightly, her expression a little surprised. "It's not entirely our responsibility. There was another person here the night before yesterday, and he used an ancient forbidden technique, amnesia spell." Steven's face was a little gloomy, and he felt a headache when he thought of the masked man that night. He doesn't know what memory was erased, but the big magician Sterling interrupted the magic midway, causing the reality to be distorted. Cough cough. Li Zi coughed guiltily. The night was purely accidental. He didn't expect the three of them to turn back, and he didn't expect Sterling, as an old senior, to be so irrational. Starting a few seconds before the spell is about to be completed will directly cause the spell to be interrupted. Wanda was so focused on the spell that she didn't notice Li Zi's emotions, and continued to ask, "Can't you use backtracking magic to investigate the previous scene? From the spell, you can also tell what he eliminated. The effect of the amnesia spell and retrospective magic will also be modified, so it is impossible to judge what the person has changed." Steven frowned and expressed regret, paused and said in a deep voice, "But the most important thing now is to restore reality and send all those people back to their own universe, otherwise our reality may be destroyed." "So you've figured it out?" Li Zi, who had been silent all this time, finally interjected. "I have some ideas, but I haven't fully figured it out yet." Steven stroked his chin solemnly. Obviously the current situation made this genius magician a little helpless. Li Zi naturally sees Steven's difficulties, and understands that the reason why the original book can easily restore the reality is because it retains the energy of the amnesia spell. But now that energy has been shattered by the magician Sterling with the sword of Emperor Wysand, and scattered in the universe. It is obviously impossible to reverse or restore the influence of the spell. Thinking about it, he asked, "How do you want to deal with the fake witch? She may find her at any time." "I'll go back to Kamar Taj later, just let her come. None of our magicians in Kamar Taj are vegetarians, so it's not a problem to stop her." When Steven heard this, the corners of his mouth curved slightly, full of confidence, and he didn't seem to take the counterfeit big seriously. "I hope so. She is most likely to find you first, and then me." Li Zi saw that the doctor was so confident, and the scene of Black and Wanda singled out Kamar Taj and the Illuminati in the original book appeared in his mind. Especially the Illuminati, who were as confident as Steven is now, as if they didn't take everything seriously. "Li, shall we go to Kamar Taj together?" Wanda next to him took his hand. "It's fine if we stay in the holy place, if Kamar Taj falls." With that said, Li Zi met Steven's gaze and smiled awkwardly. "I'm talking about if." "That's right. You guys stay in New York holy place, I'll go back to Kamar Taj." Steven thought for a while and agreed. After all, if they stay together, if they really want to fall and be caught together, then there is really no room for maneuver. On the contrary, if you stay in the holy place, you can go to all over the world through the holy place at any time, which is beneficial to avoid fake Wanda. Then, Steven didn't stay too long. After learning that he was being targeted, all he had to do was to return to Kamar Taj as soon as possible. Let the magicians in the dojo get ready for the battle. Although he and Li Zi swore that there was no problem, he always had a bad premonition in his heart. After the doctor left, only Li Zi and Wanda were left in the cold underground hall. "Would you like some breakfast?" Li Zi glanced at the time and it was 7:30. His stomach was already a little sour, reminding himself that it was time to eat. "Well, let's go." Wanda nodded, then pointed to the wall of the outer hall, where lines of words were engraved. "After eating, Let's come back and study those spells. Good. Li Zi looked at the defective wall on the wall, one of which was brand new and blank. It seemed that the amnesia spell was destroyed by Steven. Hey. Don't go yet. Just as the two were walking upstairs, a voice behind them stopped them. It was Eddie, who had woken up early and pretended to sleep only because he was scared. Eddie, for fear that no one will hurt you if you stay here. Wanda was taken aback by someone shouting, and was relieved to see that it was Eddie. Bring me a breakfast, I'll die without it. Eddie's voice is a little weak, and he hasn't eaten since he was born yesterday. That damned Kamar Taj magician never knew the law. After all, prisoners of war have something to eat. No problem. Li Zi is not the Holy Mother, but Eddie is indeed a good person, he must not be starved to death. After agreeing, they left the holy place directly. The holy place is located near the city center, very close to the Stark building, before the battle between the Avengers and Chitauri. It also spread to New York Holy Place. But with the Ancient One magician there, the holy place was naturally not damaged in the slightest. Boss, I want a cup of coffee and a piece of bread. You're $1 short. But boss, I don't have that much cash on me right now, can I wait until next time to pay? Little girl, are you kidding me? It's only $1, and the clothes and shoes on your body add up to thousands of dollars. Then I'll just have a cup of coffee. At this time, a breakfast shop was in front of the window. There was a dispute between the guest and the boss. The guest was a girl who should not be very old, only 17 or 18 years old, and her voice was immature but magnetic. Different from looking at her face, just listening to her voice can make people think that she must have good looks. Are you sure it's just a cup of coffee? The boss asked again. Well, just a cup of coffee. Gwen handed over the little money she had left on her body. She didn't have much money on her when she came, and she had almost used up all the money since yesterday. Hey, as a Chawang, it is natural to be cold and drink the northwest wind. Just when she looked distressed, a large hand passed a bill to the counter. Let me pay for her. By the way, 2 cups of coffee and 2 pieces of bread, thank you.